Alright, stick with me here. When our guy and his parents arrive at the Empire's top academy, they can't even reach the gates. Two stuck-up noble brats cut them off, sneering that commoners don't belong at this school. And just to be absolute jerks, they shove his mom so hard she hits the dirt. Lewis is ready to explode and wreck them right then and there. But his parents hold him back, begging him to focus on the exam. So he bites his tongue. The bullies actually look totally let down. They really wanted an excuse to beat up a commoner. But what they don't realize is that Lewis just made a silent, deadly promise. The second he gets accepted, those rich kids are going to pay. Wasting zero time, he marches to the testing grounds. Thousands of older applicants are already swarming the place, but honestly, he does not care at all. Then the principal steps up and officially kicks off the exams. Test number 1. Climb the massive staircase guarded by the academy's senior students. The physical passes are sitting right behind those guards, and only 1,000 kids can pass. It's purely first come, first served. Once those 1,000 passes are gone, it is game over. And just like that, it begins. Everyone scrambles up the steps, totally thinking this test will be an absolute breeze. Now pay attention, because one evil senior steps up to unleash pure hell. He blasts out this terrifying dark red energy. It completely crushes the applicants, dropping them to the floor with disqualified flashing everywhere. The kids in the back are completely lost, panicking in confusion. But our guy, he knows exactly what this is. Casually walking through the chaos, he tells everyone that wasn't a real attack. That senior is just flexing his aura to scare them. Anyone with a weak mindset instantly folds. The senior spots our boy, immediately realizing this kid actually has some real backbone. But there are plenty of elites here, and he refuses to let a filthy commoner through. Lewis instantly hates this guy. The senior smirks, promising to make the commoner feel real pain. He drops an even bigger, scarier wave of dark pressure. The weak kids are literally crying. But Lewis, barely blinking, he stands on the stairs, smirking right back. This fake killing intent only works on ordinary people. You saw that coming, right? Having trained through actual hell, Lewis unleashes his own martial arts, sprinting up those stairs and shattering that scary aura. He is absolutely furious and ready to show these nobles true killing intent. He launches straight at the senior, throwing a massive punch. The crowd watches in pure shock. Even the senior is stunned. A commoner bypassed his shield. But an inch from his face, Lewis stops the punch. The senior is sweating bullets. Everyone gasps. They cannot believe a 14-year-old kid packs this much insane raw power. He totally tanked the killing intent and nearly knocked out a senior without using any magic. Lewis ignores their dropped jaws. He casually walks past, grabs his pass, and mutters he is bored. Obviously, the senior snaps. He gets super angry and throws a cheap shot at Lewis. But Lewis effortlessly blocks it at the last second, leaving the bully completely terrified. A broke commoner just stopped his best smash with zero magic involved. Crazy. Then the principal steps in. He announces our boy as the first passer, reminding everyone that equality rules here. Noble or not, they are all just regular humans at heart. Hearing this, the senior formally bows and Lewis nods in respect. The principal congratulates him. But suddenly, he zeroes in on the kid's hair color, calling it a huge concern without explaining. Lewis immediately gets suspicious. Alarm bells are ringing in his head. Keeping his cool, he asks what that means. But the principal leans in, whispering he will personally brew a potion to hide those unique traits. Our boy is totally lost. For a second, he wonders if this old man is just testing him. He looks at himself and decides that is a tomorrow problem. Right now, he has to crush the second exam test. As he walks off, leaving that defeated noble fuming, trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Alright, stick with me here, because you rarely see a principal crash an exam just to protect a commoner. That stuck-up noble, he swears total revenge for the massive humiliation Louis just handed him. Soon, the survivors hit the second test in a huge indoor arena. Out of 20,000, only 1,000 remain. Mostly elite-trained nobles. Almost zero commoners left. Louis is chilling in the back when bam, someone bumps into him. Surprise, surprise, another noble bully. He sneers, saying, nobody will save our guy this time. He tosses in a classic elitist insult too. But Louis, completely calm, zero reaction. The lackey jumps in, claiming the principal saved him from disqualification. Oh, but this time, Louis actually claps back. He calls the guy an absolute idiot, saying the Grandmaster has way better judgment than some low-tier snobs. The bully hates that. He gets furious and threatens to completely knock Louis out cold. Our guy smirks. The bully swings, but watch this closely with me. At the last second, Louis moves. He pulls off a crazy precise martial arts move, sending a shockwave right through the bully. Meridian Severance, a spiral point strike that completely wrecks the body flow. The noble goes flying away like a totally stupid parrot. The other lackeys scramble to their wrecked friend. Boom, now every single person is staring at them. The beaten noble twitches, struggling to stand up. His arm is totally numb and his body is basically paralyzed. Pure panic hits his face. He screams about poison and threatens to call the authorities on him right away. Louis just calls him an idiot. No poison here, man. That was 100% pure martial arts. The funny part, our guy has been holding back. He literally promised his mom he would not cause trouble. But hey, he has limits. Try to bully him and you get destroyed. He lives by one very simple rule. If you dare to throw a punch, you better be ready to get hit back. He raises his fist for round 2, but bam, someone grabs his arm. It is the golden boy, Lord Kane. He tells them to behave since the exam is still happening. Keep fighting like this and you get disqualified. That snaps him out of it. Louis snatches his arm back from Kane, shoots him a super annoyed glare and walks off. Kane turns to the shouting bullies. One freezing cold glare and he tells them to shut up and back off. They instantly quiet down and retreat, but their eyes are still full of hatred. Louis watches Kane closely, figuring he is just another rich noble using his massive status to boss everyone around. Then Kane surprises him. He calls Louis brave, and even asks to form a team if he is willing. Before Louis can even answer, a massive crowd of fangirls rushes Kane. They are practically begging to team up with him. Even the guys are fanboying over him. Crazy, right? You and I both know Louis does not have time for this drama. Suddenly a glowing tornado drops in the middle of the arena. Principal Smith casually appears inside it. Stage 2 is a power test, he announces. Boom. A weird glowing light starts burning right on everyone's chest. The students look down completely confused. No one knows what is going on. Kane spots it immediately. An earth attribute skill. Then bam, an insane gravity crashes down on them. Their bodies feel like they are dragging boulders. Half the room struggles to just stand. Even Kane grits his teeth to stay standing. Then he notices someone casually walking forward. Kane forces his head up, and there is Louis, just casually strolling onto the stage, completely ready for whatever is next. Principal Smith watches in shock, but you can see the pure satisfaction in his eyes. Once again, our guy leads the pack. Through all that crazy gravity pressure, he walks like he is out for a stroll. Even with years of elite martial arts training, this crushing pain is way too much for the rich kids to handle. And it just gets heavier. Kane feels his own bones straining. So seeing Louis just standing there, no elite training, not even a single shiver, Kane cannot wrap his head around how strong he actually is. Principal Smith finally announces the rules. Only the ones still on their feet get to advance to the next round. He waves his hand, summoning a bunch of shiny weapons. Anyone who wants to survive better, grab one right now. Our hero casually strolls over, grabbing a solid sword. Meanwhile, everyone else is still fighting gravity, barely able to even lift their hands. Phase 3 kicks off right away, and boom, a massive, unexpected plot twist hits. Bound life forms. Everyone is confused. The principal vanishes. Trust me, we are going to want to see what happens next. Suddenly, someone screams for the crowd to look up. Alright, jump in with me. When they check the huge sky, glowing blue bouncy jelly creatures start dropping everywhere, landing all across the arena floor. They look super harmless at first, way less scary than those earlier seniors. The exam rules drop fast. Hit a slime, 1 point. Dodge it, 2 points. Actually kill the thing, 5 whole points. Rankings rely totally on these points, and only the top 100 will pass. At first, cocky students just laugh, calling these slimes weak little jokes. They rush straight in expecting super easy points, but the very second they strike, the slimes snap. The slimes speed up and slam them with insane force. That cute vibe completely vanishes as they go absolutely feral, crushing student after student. Total panic hits the arena as these slimes turn everything into pure chaos. Up in the stands, Principal Smith and the examiners watch closely. One examiner mentions that massive family talents are competing, including heavy hitters tied to the Oranka and Durahan houses. She also points out a few totally suspicious candidates, especially that kid who grabbed first place in the first test. Principal Smith just smirks, calling that exact boy incredibly fascinating. But the examiner points out that Lewis has not moved an inch, yet worried he is totally going to fall behind. Now watch carefully here. Other candidates assume he has just given up, so completely false. Right as a slime charges, Lewis just chills with his back turned, perfectly tracking every single thing happening across the chaotic battlefield. Literally 2 seconds before impact, our guy simply steps aside and perfectly dodges the hit. It looks ridiculously easy, leaving everybody wondering how he is so smooth. The slime sparks with crazy energy and launches an even harder attack, while several others swarm straight at him. But here is the massive secret: Lewis did not come to this exam unprepared. Way before this exam, he trained like a madman, making his friends chuck heavy rocks at him. They really hated doing it, but he begged them just so he could test a completely crazy theory. Back in his past life, he formed a brilliant hypothesis: if he trained his mind to rapidly shoot data from his parietal lobe to his cerebellum, he could instantly calculate attack paths with zero delay. By constantly crunching those trajectories in real time, he figured he could effortlessly dodge literally any incoming attack. So he just stood there dodging flying rocks. Popping his secret martial art technique, he tracked the trajectory of every single rock and sidestepped them with perfect precision. His friends were totally mind-blown, running over to ask how he survived that. Lewis called it the void combat calculation. They had zero clue what that meant, but for him, the insane theory absolutely proved to be a success. Now in the second exam, our boy triggers void combat calculation once again. As the deadly slimes blitz him, his brain instantly maps out their speed and angles. They are fast and hit like huge trucks, but here is the kicker: they only move in straight lines. That makes the math incredibly simple to predict. He casually pivots his steps, dodging everything and grabbing 8 points in mere seconds. Then he pulls his sword and unleashes a brutal move called Force Slash. His blade effortlessly slices right through the slimes, splitting them completely apart for even more points. You saw that too, right? Kane is completely shocked, and even the examiners look totally stunned. They cannot wrap their heads around his insane prediction skills. Kane gets super hyped, finally realizing Lewis is absolutely no ordinary commoner. He is a true practitioner, packing some wildly advanced combat skills. Kane heavily wants to team up now, knowing it will be incredibly beneficial. Another slime rushes our guy, but just as he winds up for the killing blow, someone else jumps right in, and they clash over the exact same target. Lewis scowls, totally convinced Kane is stealing his kill. Kane quickly waves it off, saying he is actually stealing from the others, and formally introduces himself. He pitches gathering points as a team. Lewis hesitates hard, knowing genuine trust is incredibly rare here. Kane just grins, challenging him to turn it into a brutal competition for the highest score. That definitely grabs our hero's attention, and he quickly agrees, betting that the absolute loser must do whatever the winner demands. Gripping his sword tight, he vows to show his real power. Standing back to back in the arena, some jealous nobles spot a perfect opening to eliminate the commoner while scoring free points. A sniper fires sharp arrows right at Lewis. He gets ready to counter, but before anyone can even blink, the arrows reach him. The whole crowd gasps, totally expecting blood, but our hero just stands perfectly unbothered. Those arrows never even scratch him. He literally catches all 3 with his bare hands, leaving the bullies absolutely speechless. Kane asks if he is okay, absolutely furious at the dirty trick. The insulted archer activates double arrow edge. That is where we leave it. Trust me, you need to see what comes next. Alright, stick with me here. Kane dodges and slices most incoming arrows, but one slips past his sword, speeding right for a lethal strike. Blood splatters. Kane freezes in absolute shock, bracing for the fatal pierce. He waits for the agonizing impact, but it never happens. Opening his eyes, he spots Louis standing right there, gripping the arrow tight while his bare hand oozes blood. Louis simply tells him to chill out. That cowardly attack was meant for our MC all along. Up in the stands, an examiner points out the pure malicious intent. He asks Principal Smith if those punks should be disqualified instantly. Principal Smith calmly tells everyone to wait. He claims the bullies will eliminate themselves soon enough. Plus, he wants to keep watching and deal with the fallout after the exam. He even orders the staff to prep healing potions. Why, he has a strong feeling Louis is about to snap some bones. Now watch closely. Our hero asks Kane about baseball, an unknown sport in this world, but Louis is ready to demonstrate. A slime charges straight for him. He swings his heavy sword exactly like a bat. Thunder erupts along the blade, smashing the slime. It rockets directly into the stunned bullies. One guy eats the full impact, shattering his ribs before tumbling off stage. Instant disqualification. But Louis is not done. He sprints right at the remaining bullies who are totally paralyzed, seeing their leader get utterly destroyed so easily. One tries turning back, but too late. Louis flips overhead, kicking a slime ball straight into his face. The brutal impact crushes him, snapping teeth and launching him off the stage. Another disqualification down. Only one bully left. The last guy sweats nervously, unable to track Louis at all. Total panic mode activated. Suddenly, our hero vanishes and reappears behind him with a taunt. Yet the stubborn punk still refuses to apologize. He just keeps shouting insults, ranting about how senior nobles rule and lowly commoners should know their place. He completely misses someone stepping up. Next second, he trips hard and tumbles off the stage. Kane just swept him. With that hilarious fall, the final bully is disqualified. Kane calmly walks over, thanking Louis. Kane glances at Louis' injured hand from that arrow catch, noticing it is now safely bandaged. They share a quick high five. Louis admits Kane is actually pretty cool for a noble as they run from incoming slimes. While dodging, Kane tells Louis not to lump him in with those snobs. He is built different. He explains the Empire has massive elite families, and he proudly represents the legendary Oranka family. These great families bred literal grandmasters and sages. Because of that insane legacy, they hold massive political power. Sometimes their raw authority even rivals the royals, nobles, and top arcanist associations combined. All this lore is completely new to Louis, so he mentally files it away while fighting. Meanwhile, the disqualified losers watch Louis dominate. Seeing a commoner fight this well makes them furiously jealous. Refusing to let a lowborn steal their thunder, they actually launch a bitter sneak attack toward the boys. Instantly, Kane's loyal followers see their young lord under fire. They totally panic and charge in for the rescue. Within seconds, pure chaos explodes. Students who just wanted good grades are now violently turning on each other. You and I knew this was coming, right? Total free-for-all. Nearby Faye watches the madness, highly amused. She calls out to her friend Miliana, hyping her up to jump in and crush some arrogant nobles. Louis effortlessly dodges slimes with martial arts, but quickly realizes the students are now strictly hunting each other down. He figures out that if his score gets too high, he becomes the biggest target. Just then, he spots Miliana casually wrecking nobles. Faye is throwing down skillfully too, alongside a red-haired kid Neil Gunn looking completely unhinged. This crazy kid swings a massive hammer, tossing people aside. Screaming that smashing nobles beats, fighting slimes, he unleashes absolute mayhem, flattening multiple opponents in a wild frenzy. Up top, the staff watches closely. One nervous examiner suggests stopping the exam before too many nobles get disqualified. Principal Smith refuses. He finds this chaotic clash of young talents way too entertaining. Another staff member argues that failing rich noble kids means political trouble. Smith totally brushes it off. Public opinion means zero to him, he just wants to see the grand finale. Then completely out of nowhere, he steps into the arena center, abruptly ending the second exam. Scores will drop later as earth magic lifts and potions get handed out. Trust me, you're going to want to see those rankings. Stick with me here because you and I are watching Louis study this potion. 3 silver coins, way too expensive for our broke guy. Kane notices his sour face, asking, "What is up?" He laughs, joking he will not bully Louis after winning. Soon after, Principal Smith finally drops the rankings. Those snobby nobles smirk, thinking Louis completely failed when he is not on the list. But plot twist, the top 5 actually shattered all previous records, so Smith announces them separately. He declares 5th place goes to Miliana Royce, 4th place is Karanka, and 3rd is Faye Durahan, securing 2nd place with 8,087 points. Our boy Louis. Kane is absolutely stunned. Not just because Louis beat him, but a commoner fighting like that, unreal. Being a good sport, Kane totally accepts defeat. He lost the bet, so he asks Louis what to do. Louis just smiles, saying he will tell him later. Then Smith announces 1st place 8,888 points. It goes to that same crazy redhead who was destroying everything earlier. Neil is still smiling like an absolute psycho. Everyone is whispering about his insane strength. A commoner beating the famous Durahan heir wild. Miliana looks super stressed, noticing Faye literally shaking with rage. But Faye swallows her pride, confidently declaring she would love to fight someone that incredibly strong. Meanwhile, the older students are absolutely raging that nobles lost to mere commoners. The examiner notes that getting 2nd place is a historic first for the academy. And the craziest part, both top students came from an orphanage. Principal Smith explains the Arcanist Association runs that orphanage because true power comes from the masses. It has absolutely zero to do with fancy social status. He tells everyone who passed to head over to the next venue. Walking together, Kane points out Louis was incredibly close to taking 1st place. He wonders who is actually stronger between them. Louis, though, he honestly could not care less right now. Before long, they all arrive at the massive training ground. Now watch closely because here is where things get wild. Principal Smith announces a brutal emblem battle royale, handing out tokens. The goal, hoard as many emblems as you possibly can. And yes, absolutely, any dirty trick is allowed. Lose your emblem and you are instantly disqualified. Only the top 10 surviving hoarders will actually get admitted into the academy. Kane turns to his new buddy, saying they should probably split up for the moment. He drops a solid warning. Top rankers are basically walking targets right now, so stay on guard. Louis promises he will survive no matter what. He totally knows the staff announced those rankings just to trigger this exact chaotic bloodbath. Hearing the whispers, Smith just smirks. He tells everyone to show off because only the absolute best survive. The exam kicks off. Louis strolls through the forest, hyped that admission is finally within reach, so he cannot afford to lose here. Suddenly someone blocks his path. It is an angry, noble NPC charging right at him, screaming that Louis humiliated them in the last test. Louis turns around, spotting 2 more bullies charging in. You and I both know nobody is coming to save him, but get this, he does not need saving. Honestly, these arrogant bullies desperately need protection from Louis. Out of nowhere, Louis spots an archer camping in a tree. He instantly realizes the sketchy staff leaked his coordinates, bringing every hater right here. The bullies rush him one by one, but our guy casually dodges every single strike. Then boom, a heavy attack blasts toward him, forcing him to block it hard with his sword. He is pretty confused, unable to recognize the technique. Right then, the bully rushes in, screaming death threats. But Louis is far from done. He brawls with the whole squad. Another heavy magical blast comes flying, and he dodges it perfectly, but he is getting super annoyed now. Up in the trees, one NPC is literally firing magic arrows. He mocks Louis for lacking magic, but a second later he gets totally frustrated as Louis keeps dodging. Meanwhile, Louis is sweating a bit. He cannot perfectly predict these weird magical arrow trajectories, so he switches to raw martial arts. He busts out Sen no Sen, a legendary counterstrike that uses the enemy's own momentum against them. The enemy leader snaps, ordering the entire squad to jump our hero all at once. So, what do you and I learn here? Never jump the main character. He weaves through them, using his sword to redirect their attacks into each other. Even when that annoying sniper shoots magic arrows, Louis casually sidesteps at the absolute last second. This causes another unlucky bully to get completely destroyed. Alright, stick with me here. Watch our guy toss this injured bully like absolute trash. He hurls a spear, snipes the dude in the tree, bags their emblems, and just laughs. But of course, one stubborn fighter yells for backup. Not today. Kane casually draws his bow and drops him instantly. He's just chilling up in that tree, realizing our hero doesn't even use magic. The remaining goons panic. Kane definitely isn't supposed to be here. Turns out he already beat them all and extracted their little ambush plan. The bully keeps whining, so Kane literally bonks him with his bow until he shuts up. Kane finally drops down and Louis casually mentions he's totally safe. Kane shrugs it off. Just low-tier nobles spamming rookie magic. Honestly, total piece of cake for a guy like him. He tosses Louis the last stolen emblem, then sighs. If this keeps happening, it's going to be super annoying, so he offers to team up. Louis shoots him down immediately. He fights his own battles. Watching all this, Faye, she slowly claps, respecting his totally insane level of pride. But she didn't come for small talk. She looks right at him and demands a fight. Kane whispers a quick warning she's the Grandmaster's granddaughter from the terrifying Durahan family. Louis just looks at Kane. Have you ever fought her before? Kane pauses. He aggressively denies being friends, but yeah, they clashed once. And of course, he claims he totally just let his guard down that day. Louis instantly roasts him for losing, making Kane scramble to defend his wounded ego. Before this comedy routine continues, Faye snaps at them to pause their little bromance and stop flirting. Now pay attention, this is crucial. Kane warns that she uses apprentice-level magic, which is insanely overpowered for their age, and she's challenging him again. He begs our guy to just ignore her and farm emblems instead. Faye rolls her eyes, mocking them both. Are you two cowards planning to run away? She says Kane is completely ruining Louis's confidence, calling our boy a flat-out coward. Oh yeah, that definitely hits a nerve. Kane gets mad too, but Louis steps right up, pride fully ignited. He admits he always wanted to see how the elites fight. Challenge accepted. Faye grins, she totally loves his crazy energy. To make it fair, no magic. But instantly she dashes forward and triggers her family's hidden killer technique. Lance slam, aim dead at him, and Louis literally just stands there. Boom. Direct hit, or so it looks. Faye smirks, but only because at the final microsecond Louis shifted and trapped the heavy lance against his bicep. She instantly yanks her weapon free, spinning it in a brutal 360 degrees. This forces him back as she fires off a second lance slam. Louis barely manages to dodge this one. Up in the VIP seats, the examiners are locked in. It's been forever since they saw the Durahan spear. Her speed, her crazy power, they're straight up calling her a once-in-a-generation genius. But honestly, you and I both know Louis is holding his own while they wager on his defeat. One bets he'll fold any second. They ask the big boss principal for his take. He admits he likes the rookie, but claims beating Faye is impossible. He says real combat is body versus pure willpower. And our guy lacks the miles. Down in the dirt, a massive dust cloud blows up as Faye lunges forward. He immediately goes on defense, slipping past every single thrust. Finally, an opening. He counters hard, nearly disarming her completely. She gets super mad, but he casually vaults right over her head. She's stunned. How did he dodge all that? Not even Golden Boy Kane from the Oranga clan survived that combo. But for Louis, too easy. He just watches the rhythm and the puzzle solves itself. Faye takes that very personally. She screams out her ultimate move, the legendary Lance Crescent Fall. His brain goes into overdrive. Spear moves mean massive reach, sweeps, and heavy suppression. It's an absolute headache to deal with. But even under intense pressure, his sharp eyes spot a bunch of glaring flaws. The biggest one, zero close-range defense. He just needs to time it perfectly, close the gap, and strike hard. He finds his split-second window and swings, but Faye sidesteps it instantly. She charges right back, screaming that her family's style is flawless, spinning up a literal tornado. The examiners are losing their minds. Even her grandpa didn't master this insane tornado technique until age 16. Mixing pure magic with physical spear mastery, she's utterly unmatched. It looks like game over, right? But trust me, you're going to love this. He activates his sword net technique. Watch what happens. So get this, that flashy spear technique actually burns through a massive amount of stamina. If our guy keeps blocking, an opening will pop up. But stick with me here, he doesn't even realize his sword is cracking. Faye is getting seriously annoyed that Louis won't just stay down. Finally, he spots an opening and strikes. But right at that exact second snap, his sword shatters completely. Lewis curses his awful luck. But Faye actually calls it impressive. If his blade hadn't broken, that counterattack would have hit her dead on. She clearly knows he is holding back. Lewis apologizes, admitting it is just a bad habit he loves, analyzing his opponents before going crazy. Data collection complete. Time to get serious. Faye assumes the fight is over since his weapon is totally busted. But Lewis, he is ready. Hands up. He is way deadlier with his fists anyway. Faye charges right at him with a spinning attack. Kane yells from the sidelines. Taking that head on means an instant trip to the hospital. But our boy is completely locked into his martial arts zone. At the very last millisecond, he catches the spear barehanded. The examiners are losing their minds. That attack is supposed to completely pierce any defense. Yet absolutely nothing happens. They are completely stunned, wondering how this kid stopped a lethal spear. Principal Smith is completely speechless. But Faye, oh, she is far from finished. She kicks hard, ripping the spear from his grip. Grabbing it again, she instantly charges back in, this time launching a massive high-speed attack from every single angle. But to Lewis, the whole world just slows down. Using just his bare hands, he deflects everything. Faye is totally baffled. Principal Smith is literally sweating. He realizes Lewis is countering the spear using some crazy, unheard-of martial arts technique. The Dullahan spinning spear is famous worldwide. Let that sink in for a second. Stopping it barehanded proves this boy is an absolute freak of nature. Lewis finally strikes back, forcing her to retreat. Now Faye is visibly furious, practically demanding to know what that bizarre technique was. Our hero just shrugs. He honestly says it is just basic martial arts. He explains how adding a tiny twist upon contact completely cancels her rotational force. Yeah, that explanation goes right over Faye's head. Pure gibberish. Since words are not working, Lewis steps forward. He decides to show her instead. He starts weaving everywhere, while Faye desperately tries to hit him. From the sidelines, Kane thinks it looks like magic. Lewis is floating like a butterfly. Faye swears he is standing directly in front of her. But the second she swings, he is already gone. It seriously looks like he is gliding. Lewis is loving this chance to flex his style. It is officially time for the butterfly step, an elegant footwork style inspired by an absolute boxing legend. The crazy fast, totally unpredictable rhythm is the perfect counter to Faye's spear. Finding another gap in her defense, Lewis unleashes a brutal punch, sending her flying backwards. Kane is standing there with his jaw dropped. Even Principal Smith never expected a student like Lewis to deal such massive heavy damage to Faye. The examiners know that almost nobody can beat Faye in pure physical combat. Zero magic involved. This kid might actually be a once-in-a-generation fighting genius. But Faye is seeing red now. She stands back up, declaring her noble family has an unbreakable spirit, and she absolutely refuses to go down this easily. She tosses the spear away. I know what you're thinking. Why on earth would she challenge him to a fistfight? She rushes in swinging. Lewis instantly drops into Wing Chun, and Pak Sao stances perfectly, parrying her absolutely crushing physical blows. But she is fast. His defense slips slightly, and Faye manages to scrape his hand. Instead of getting mad, he just smirks and ignores the pain. Faye proudly shouts that Dullahan blood means strength. She fires off a level 3 crushing fist, but Lewis is wide awake now. Switching straight to boxing, the two trade heavy bone-rattling blows. Lewis is grinning, his dark side is waking up. He does not love violence itself. He just loves pushing his crazy physical strength to the absolute limit. The vibe shifts completely. He steps right into her personal space, radiating a terrifying aura that literally freezes her solid. She throws up her arms in a desperate block, but it fails. Boom, Lewis launches her straight into a giant tree. Principal Smith is sweating. This technique looks dangerous. The other students are paralyzed. A commoner with this much raw power. Suddenly, one of the rich kids starts shaking and feeling sick. It is the intense, suffocating aura Lewis is leaking. Yep, these are the exact same bullies who plotted against him earlier. So what do we learn here? Never underestimate a commoner with absolute god-tier skills. The other kid, who was throwing up seconds ago, is absolutely sick to his stomach. Let's see how this plays out. He thinks they have to eliminate our hero right now. From far back, they watch Louis totally lose it. He's charging straight at Faye, who is already completely drained and battered. She barely blocks before Louis throws a massive punch, sending her flying across the field again. He rushes her while she is still down in the dirt. It is obvious his speed and power are just on another level. In this beat-up state, zero chance she wins. He winds up to strike. At the literal last second, panicking for her life, she busts out her magic martial arts to counter. Boom, the crazy impact blasts them both backward. Just like that, our hero suddenly snaps back to normal. Staring at his bleeding hands, he quietly realizes how insane magic truly is. Kane sprints over, asking if he is okay. He says he is fine, but he is worried about Faye. Right on cue, those annoying bullies step out from behind the trees. They immediately accuse our guy of losing his emblem, screaming that he is officially disqualified. Louis looks down. Yep, his emblem is literally burned to ashes. Kane instantly jumps in to defend him. He argues it was just a total accident. The bully smirks, claiming the principal saw the whole thing. So Kane cannot help a commoner cheat today. He steps up, tells Louis to drop his stuff, and orders him out. He calls Louis trash, who is ruining the test and needs to vanish. But wait, Faye suddenly yells at them to stop. Everyone turns around. Louis is genuinely shocked she is still standing after taking that much damage. The bully asks why she is protecting a commoner. He warns her she is going to get disqualified for breaking the rules. Faye could not care less. She straight up admits Louis earned the point and she was the one who accidentally used magic. She actually apologizes. Kane is completely stunned. The legendary Faye is saying sorry to our hero. But Louis apologizes right back. He says he totally lost control of his power, so the blame is really on him. Faye accepts it, though she is obviously still salty about losing. She points out that he forced her hand. Even so, she demands a rematch before school officially starts. The bully just laughs, bragging about his 4 emblems. He mocks Louis for failing. But get this, Faye rips a piece of cloth from her uniform and tosses it to Louis. You and I both knew she wouldn't let him fail. It holds her 14 emblems, instantly putting him ahead. Before taking off, she roasts the bullies. Weak people should not pass, and the strong absolutely should not fail. She refuses to tolerate that garbage. Lifting her mighty spear, she reminds everyone that only 10 students can actually pass. Her new mission, far more than 14 emblems to lock in her spot. Kane just grins, fully agreeing with the plan. The two of them sprint right back into the wild exam, hyped to hunt down more emblems. They need to qualify and finally settle their dumb bet. Louis just watches his 2 crazy new allies run off, smiling slightly. But he totally misses Principal Smith and an examiner floating down from the sky to have a little chat. The principal walks up and calmly drops the bad news. His personal emblem burned up, so he is officially disqualified anyway. Louis just shrugs and accepts it without a fight. Meanwhile, the angry bully clenches his fists, muttering about payback. He turns to his buddy, swearing he never wants to look at Louis ever again. But his friend points out a massive loophole. If Faye wipes out enough competitors, Louis might actually still pass this exam. Now pay close attention because this is where things get genuinely twisted. Consumed by pure hatred, the bully starts thinking that if a student died in an accident today, nobody would even question it. Especially if that dead student is just a commoner. Honestly, nobody would even care. His buddy silently agrees. He is still shaking from that horrifying aura Louis unleashed earlier. He is totally convinced Louis is hiding some terrifying dark monster inside his body. This guy is definitely not normal. A bit later, our guy hands his massive pile of emblems to the examiner. He is stuck in his head. His martial arts are strong, sure, but magic is just on a whole different level. Staring at the academy, he sighs. He only wanted to enroll to learn how to perfectly mix martial arts and magic. But right now, that dream is looking pretty impossible. Walking home that night, he is stressing over his ruined muddy clothes. His mom is going to absolutely freak out about this. Tell the truth or make up a lie. He is so distracted he completely misses the shady guy in a hoodie walking past. Just a second later, bam, the hooded ninja lunges from the shadows going for a lethal backstab while Louis is distracted. So much for a quiet walk home, right? Louis instantly kicks him away. He could smell that foul bloodlust a mile away. Stick with me here. Another ninja suddenly pops up, completely mocking our hero for acting way too chill right before his death. Louis sizes them up. These guys look like elite fighters, meaning he has to go absolutely all out today. Especially that one guy hanging way back. He looks lethal. The first assassin lunges in for a quick stab, but classic Louis, he instantly dodges every single blade coming his way. Smooth as butter, he strips the dagger right out of the ninja's grip, dumping him hard onto the dirt. The guy attempts a fancy martial arts kick, completely whiffs it, and awkwardly jumps back to hide behind his squad. He praises our hero's crazy reflexes and elite combat skills, muttering that it actually lines up with their secret intel. That specific word catches Louis's attention. What intel? The ninja smirks, openly admitting that our hero's close combat skills are seriously mind-blowing for a total rookie apprentice. But fists cannot beat magic. The squad instantly falls into formation, locking on with crossbows and charging up some heavy wind spells. Louis gets caught totally off guard, barely dodging as magic arrows blast into the trees. He recognizes this attack immediately. It is the exact same wind magic those bullies used on him earlier. Now watch this closely. He shifts into a special breathing technique, finally tapping into the key hidden within him. His raw physical strength spikes, forcefully awakening his hidden potential. Bursting with insane speed and power, he charges straight at the assassins just as they fire again. He evades the volley so fast they cannot even track him. Kicking and rolling, Louis effortlessly dances through the barrage. He is absolutely dominating until that scary ninja steps in, blocking his attack and shooting agonizing pain right up Louis's arm. Reality hits him like a truck. That boss assassin he noticed earlier is terrifyingly strong. Glancing around, Lewis realizes he is completely boxed in by killers. At this point, going purely on the defensive is his only option. He blocks like crazy, but a few magic arrows eventually tag him, dropping Lewis hard. The assassins let out a massive sigh of relief, completely drained just from shooting at him. Honestly, they are baffled that a random commoner kid turned out to be such a nightmare to take down. One of the goons carelessly walks over, completely blind to the fact that Lewis is faking. Lewis's eyes snap open. He unleashes pure fury, jamming his fingers straight into the guy's throat and launching him. The boss is genuinely stunned that Lewis pulled the oldest trick in the book, playing possum. Still, he has to respect that kind of cold composure from a literal kid. Lewis points the stolen crossbow right back. I know what you are thinking. Lewis demands to know how he can just watch his own guys die. The boss just sneers, claiming he does not care about worthless trash. Lewis immediately fires, but the leader deflects the bolts without even breaking a sweat. He casually channels his magic, summoning a gigantic heavy hammer. He sighs, admitting that if he did not have strict kill orders, he would have actually loved to train Lewis. And then boom, he swings that colossal hammer straight at our boy. Lewis barely manages a last-second block, but the raw impact still sends him flying. While Lewis is literally airborne, the boss blitzes right up to him and delivers a second brutal smash, slamming the poor kid violently into the dirt. During the beatdown, he openly admits that Lewis's skills are way beyond a normal apprentice. But reality check, he is still just a novice, totally outclassed by an elite veteran like himself. As Lewis lies crushed in the rubble, the killer dashes in to finish it. Then his instincts scream danger. The dust slowly clears, revealing Lewis already back on his feet in a fighting stance. The assassin is completely floored. Lewis is running purely on stubborn willpower and absolute mental grit. He absolutely refuses to die, but the boss wants him gone. He unleashes a martial arcane technique, forming a massive coffin-shaped boulder called the Celestial Hammer, and chucks it. Staring at death, Lewis desperately pictures his beloved family. He remembers his dream to master magic, protect the people he cherishes, and rewrite his terrible destiny at any cost. As those deep emotions flood his mind, a switch flips. His entire energy signature completely transforms. That identical chaotic aura from earlier violently erupts once more. Ditching defense entirely, Lewis goes fully on the offensive, manifesting his absolute will to survive. His explosive fist directly clashes with the falling rock, leaving the assassin stunned by the sheer unbridled power. A massive shockwave tears through the forest. Once the thick smoke fades, Lewis drops to his knees, coughing. But this fight is not over. The boss narrows his eyes, genuinely unnerved, that he suddenly feels like he is fighting an absolute equal. Seeing Lewis erupt with this insane hidden power, the assassin finally realizes why his mysterious client wanted this kid dead so badly. And that is where we leave it. He steps forward, raising his hammer to deliver the final blow. Stick with me. At the absolute last second, a lightning tornado strikes. The ninja totally whiffs his attack, stumbling backward in pure shock. Trapped in swirling electricity, the guy has zero clue what hit him before it completely swallows him, leaving him absolutely wrecked. Down on the ground, Louis just watches Principal Smith casually floating down from the sky. He is on guard, but mostly just mind-blown. Meanwhile, the principal is thrilled to see our boy, super glad he actually managed to stop his own wild rampage. He tosses Louis a quick stamina potion, which our guy chugs down like an absolute boss. Eventually, those crazy tornadoes finally finish roasting the assassin, and he flops face first into the dirt. Smith marches right up, furious. He demands to know who had the absolute nerve to ambush an academy examinee on his watch. Surprisingly, the assassin shows some respect, warning Smith that even a true grandmaster can never control a total monster like Louis. Why? Because this ambush is just a tiny taste of Louis and his insane destiny. Boom, the ninja randomly explodes right in front of them, leaving the principal totally speechless and completely off guard. I know exactly what you are thinking. A self-destructing ninja. Yep, Smith figures out an assassin guild probably just slapped a massive bounty on Louis. Still, he seriously hopes he is just being incredibly paranoid. Meanwhile, Louis hops back up, totally amazed that the high-tier potion instantly healed his body. He is genuinely hyped, realizing even his broken bones are completely good as new. He casually asks why the principal always shows up during trouble, but Smith just dodges it, saying, "They will talk about that back at home." Right then, a terrifying thought hits Louis, and he immediately goes into full panic mode. He completely missed his curfew, meaning his mom is probably freaking out. He literally sprints home way faster than he ever moved while fighting those villains. Meanwhile, Smith summons Sky. His giant magical snake spirit tells it to clean up the explosion mess and chases after Louis. Back in Mantia, right outside the local orphanage, two grimy gang members are violently harassing Latiella. They accuse her of skimming tax money to extort her mercilessly, mocking her to her face, even though she swears everything she does is just for the orphanage kids. But these street punks are ruthless with obviously dark intentions. Just as a thug reaches for her, wham, a brutal kick sends his blood and teeth flying right out of his mouth. It is Louis finally here to save his mom. Latila is thrilled at first, but then she spots his shredded clothes and absolutely loses her mind. Before he can even ask if she is hurt, she charges at him, screaming about his completely ruined outfit. She demands to know why he is bleeding and covered in bandages. Sweating bullets, Louis awkwardly claims he just got stuck in a tree during the academy exam, but she is definitely not buying it. Now watch this closely. The knocked out thug actually gets up, yells at Louis for breaking street rules, and threatens to call massive backup. Right on cue, Principal Smith steps in to save Louis, smoothly introducing himself and calling the whole thing a giant misunderstanding. Seeing the principal's aura, the gangsters freeze in pure terror, sensing a real grandmaster. Smiling Smith politely tells the punks to send his personal regards to their local lord. Catching that heavy hidden threat, both guys sprint away like cowards. Smith then turns to Latila, politely asking for a private chat regarding Louis. Latila invites them inside, where the principal immediately spots that weird millstone the local nobles were gossiping about. The crazy part, it literally grinds all by itself, with zero magic involved. Looking closer, he is stunned to find fully automatic gadgets covering the room from floor to ceiling. Latila happily admits she has zero clue how Louis built any of this stuff, but thanks to his genius inventions, their daily life is way easier. She then assumes that if the academy boss came personally, Louis must have pulled off something impressive during the exam. Smith chuckles at that because the truth is, Louis smashed every single expectation beyond human imagination. He honestly marvels at his talent, noting he only saw potential like this once in the ancient Gaia scriptures. Back when humanity was getting crushed by tyrannical monsters, one absolute genius hero suddenly emerged. Guided directly by the goddess, he mastered pure elemental magic, inventing the very first martial arcane techniques. Just 5 years later, alongside his legendary party, he slaughtered the Monster Kings, saving humanity from total extinction. The anniversary of that massive win became year 0 of their calendar, now called Liberation Day, celebrating human survival. In those ancient Gaia scriptures, this guy is simply called the first hero. So what do you and I make of this? Mom loves the grand hero story, but Louis finds it super weird that local legends never mention him. Let's dive right in. The principal drops a bombshell. Ancient texts describe the legendary hero with black hair and black eyes. Latella immediately goes dead silent, stepping up to protect Louis. Honestly, even he is completely shocked by her reaction. Principal Smith smirks. This is a massive secret strictly kept between humanity's absolute top brass. Why? Because sure, the hero saved the world, but he totally lost to the madness festering inside him. He just snapped. Slaughtering innocent people, murdering his own friends. The guy went completely insane, so they literally erased his existence from human history. That corrupted mind became a dark warning. Hearing this, Louis stares at his hands, remembering every single time his own dark desires almost took over. Principal Smith stands up the room's vibe, getting incredibly heavy. He reveals the brutal truth. Every single country executes anyone with black hair and eyes just to stop another crazy hero from popping up. Then he glares straight at Louis. Did he really think a cheap dye job would fool absolutely everyone? Latella bravely steps up. Realizing she's the target here, she flat out admits that hiding his hair color was entirely her idea. She wasn't hiding him, she was just terrified something awful would happen. She swears her boy is good. Louis steps in telling her to chill. If this guy wanted him dead, it would have happened by now. He's definitely here for a reason. Smith just grins. Now watch closely. The principal is actually impressed a 13-year-old tamed his own madness. He sees a brand new hero in him. Louis is totally thrown. A new hero, Smith sighs, explaining that this peaceful era they are living in is basically a giant fake-out. A massive darkness is always lurking. Watching him back at the exam, he decided to mentor Louis himself to save humanity. He suddenly chucks an apple, and Louis effortlessly snags it. Smith casually mentions that because Faye and Kane went crazy, basically everyone else completely failed the final test. Meaning Louis actually passed. He officially welcomes him to the academy and promises to personally train him from now on. Louis is mind blown. A literal grandmaster trusts him, but wait, what if he snaps and goes totally crazy like the first hero did? Before he can even finish the sentence, Smith swipes the apple back and drops a cold threat. If that happens, he'll personally execute him on the spot. Cut to the next day. Louis is building a fence while his foster brother is freaking out about the principal's personal VIP invitation. He won't stop hyping up the massive honor, but Louis knows the dark truth behind it. That whole chat was a massive warning, but he stays quiet to spare his brother's nerves. While his brother nervously babbles about expensive tuition and dorm fees, Louis is totally zoned out. How exactly is he connected to that crazy first hero? He's supposed to be a basic, noble kid, yet Smith saw right through him instantly, spotting the fake hair dye and dropping that brutal death threat without hesitating. You and I must wonder, can we really trust anything this principal says? Flashback to last night. Walking with Smith, Louis straight up asked why he dragged his poor mom into all that heavy trauma. Smith's answer: she needed the ugly truth, otherwise she'd just become a heavy burden on his journey. Louis instantly bristles at that harsh word, but Smith wasn't joking around. Once the world learns his true identity, his whole family is basically dead meat. As a mother, she has to toughen up and let him face the brutal trials heading his way. Smith suddenly flies away. Louis realizes the old man is right. He must get stronger to protect them all. Suddenly, a huge group of happy kids comes running straight towards Louis. Little Lana tackles him with a tight, tearful hug, begging him to visit. Louis softly promises he will. He swears to return often and even bring them home during school breaks. This is his real family. They seal it with a heartfelt pinky promise. Out of nowhere, a super fancy butler rolls up, announcing he serves the legendary Oranka family. Young Master Kane wants Louis at his manor today. He hands over a completely legit-looking invitation. Kane wants to bond before school begins. Hyped up, Louis gladly accepts the offer. Hopping into the carriage, he travels to the Kandria Empire. Louis finally steps out, while the butler politely bows. The Oranka family isn't just rich, they're elite tier, and their insane wealth is literally dripping off every building in town. But Louis is absolutely not ready for the colossal mansion staring back at him. His jaw hits the floor. Kane is seriously loaded. Right as he steps up, someone suddenly shouts his name. Kane sprints over for a hug, hyped their classmates. Trust me, you're gonna love this next arc. Alright, stick with me here. Louis gets major props for absolutely crushing the final exam, surviving purely thanks to Faye and Kane. Louis figures they are totally even now, so the bet is off. But Kane refuses. That is a completely different deal, he says. Plus, Louis clearly has the skills to pass anyway. The craziest part, he actually earned Faye's respect, which never happens. Walking into the massive estate, maids immediately bow to them both. Since the exam rules held them back, Kane suggests a friendly sparring match before school kicks off so they can test their limits. He also offers to give Louis a crash course on the academy and magic before classes even start. Louis is totally down for this. But wait, Kane's mother is standing right on the stairs, furious at her son's new guest. Kane steps up trying to defend his friend, but one death glare from his mom instantly shuts him down. He is absolutely terrified. She stomps down the steps, throwing heavy insults at Louis. She claims she warned Kane about picking proper friends. The gates of the Oranka estate are not open to just any random nobody. To her, a poor commoner like Louis is a total insult to their family. Kane needs to train, not hang with peasants. Kane is totally mortified as Louis takes this verbal beating directly. Before Louis even speaks, she gets up in his face, demanding his real motives. Is he after money or power? She mocks him, pulling off her massive ring. It is worth a ton of gold, enough for a lifetime. She disrespectfully tosses it right at his feet, ordering him to grab it and leave forever. Kane cannot handle the shame anymore and begs her to stop humiliating his friend. He tries apologizing, but then he sees Louis crouching to grab it. But Louis simply states he only befriended Kane because of his raw talent. And if a priceless ring buys that talent, she should be totally ashamed for selling her son short. Kane is stunned at how Louis flawlessly flipped the insult. His mother goes ballistic, screaming for guards to toss him out. The servants lunge forward, but Kane blocks them, shouting that Louis is actually way stronger than he is. He begs her to listen, saying Louis absolutely crushed exam records and defeated Faye, but she refuses to believe it. A commoner beating elite nobles. In her eyes, that is not just unheard of, it is impossible. She laughs in his face, asking if he actually expects those ridiculous lies to work. Kane swears it is true, and Louis calmly adds that he can make Kane even stronger. Now, pay attention here, because everything changes. The mother is losing her mind at his audacity when suddenly the massive doors swing open and a mysterious figure walks right in. He stares right at Louis, asking if he really just promised to make his son stronger. The entire room freezes. The mother looks absolutely horrified. The master of the Oranka family is standing right there. Trembling, she quietly calls him William. She desperately rushes over, whispering that Louis will never catch up. But William ignores her completely as Kane respectfully bows down. Louis introduces himself politely. He can feel it. Grandmaster William radiates insane energy, easily rivaling Principal Smith. But the intimidating father completely brushes off Louis for a second. He looks straight at Kane, demanding the truth. Kane boldly confirms Louis is out of his league. Hearing this, William immediately challenges the kid to prove it right now. Boom. An absolutely monstrous wave of killing intent floods the room. Louis cannot breathe. It feels like a massive lion is ripping into his very soul. He seriously thinks William is about to murder him on the spot. You saw this coming, right? Just as his body feels torn apart, Louis miraculously pushes back with his own aura. This hidden strength shocks everyone. Nobody expected this raw power against a literal grandmaster. Years of hunting deadly monsters built his massive resistance against this kind of intense bloodlust. Figuring this is just the warm-up, Louis channels everything. He blasts his energy outward so hard that William is actually slightly shocked. In the Grandmaster's mind, a terrifying dragon is now standing up to his giant lion. The two beastly auras glare at each other before finally clashing together. Kane is speechless at his friend's power. Louis survives the brutal confrontation, but in the end he drops to his knees, totally drained of energy. Panicking, Kane rushes over to check on him, but Louis just laughs off the pain. This crazy display finally makes William take him seriously. Staring down, he asks why he fights. He answers honestly to protect his family. William silently walks away. Trust me, we need to see what happens next. Alright, stick with me here. As the dad walks off, he actually tells his son his willpower is garbage and to learn from Louis. Kane's mom is absolutely losing it. She chases after her husband, begging him to reconsider, but William, he just completely ignores her. Cold. Seeing his mom that terrified of his own dad, Kane feels a quick pang of pity, but he shoves it down. He turns to Louis, forcing a smile. Time to hit the training ground and actually have some fun. At the training grounds, Kane awkwardly apologizes for his parents, acting totally unhinged. But Louis just waves it off. He admits his dad is being super extreme. Honestly, Louis and Kane are pretty close in skill, so he tells him to chill out. But Kane just sighs. Sadly, that is exactly what happens when your dad is a top-tier noble. His dad only cares about raw results. To get any respect, Kane has to become an absolute beast. Right now, Louis honestly acts more like the true heir to the Aranka family than Kane does. Louis tries to play nice, saying William testing him was just tough love for Kane's sake. But for Kane, that is absolutely not enough. Staring up at the sky, he realizes that his dad's version of love has always been incredibly messed up. You and I both know this guy is stressed, right? Since childhood, his entire life was literally just eating, sleeping, and hardcore training. His brutal training started by fighting monsters that were literally way bigger than he was. His dad expected him to become an epic sage like his grandfather. Without even knowing why, little Kane just kept swinging his sword, desperate for just a tiny ounce of validation. This giant mansion, pure prison. Other kids threw paper planes and laughed while he was forced into crazy battles he could not even comprehend. Honestly, even breathing felt like he needed a guard's permission. Everyone called him the lucky young master. But those words just felt like heavy chains choking his neck. And the tighter those chains got, the more he wanted out. He just wanted to be free. But sadly, a normal happy life was completely off the table. Right now, he is way too weak to rebel against his dad, let alone fight him. So his only option, play the good son, keep swinging that sword and level up. He truly believes raw strength is his only key to freedom. Plus, his dad happens to be a top graduate of the academy he is joining. Kane's goal is simple. Crush the academy, get insanely strong, and finally reclaim his own life. Snapping back to reality, he draws his sword and points it at Louis. He demands help reaching the top, and Louis accepts the challenge instantly. Now pay close attention here because things are getting sneaky. William watches them spar from afar, asking his butler about that secret background check. The butler confirms it. Louis is definitely not your average kid. According to their intel, Louis busted out some wild, unheard-of combat techniques during the entrance exam. He shattered old records and completely crushed Faye using zero magic even while she was blasting him. Plus, the academy's principal absolutely favors the guy. The principal literally fought an assassin guild last night to protect Louis. Hearing all this, William grins. Louis is crazy strong and a massive magnet for trouble. The butler is super confused. If he knew Louis was dangerous, why let his son hang out with him? But William has a master plan. He knows troublemakers drag in chaos. And surviving extreme chaos is exactly how people level up fast. By sticking close to a chaotic magnet like Louis, Kane is basically guaranteed to get way stronger. Meanwhile, Louis is casually trashing Kane in hand-to-hand combat. Finally, Kane draws his blade, daring Louis to actually use his full monstrous power. Watching them, William silently praises his son. Kane actually has a much better eye for talent than he thought. Kane explodes forward, using his signature wind lunge martial art technique. But at the very last microsecond, Louis blocks it and counters with a punch. It stops right in front of his face. Kane did not even see the counterattack coming. Louis gently taps Kane's cheek, casually praising how he accelerated his own magic using magic. Pretty impressive. But honestly, Kane's attacks are just way too predictable. Kane is absolutely stunned. Even using magic, he got countered like a total amateur. Now he finally understands exactly how Faye got crushed. Suddenly, Louis spaces out. Kane asks what is up, and Louis asks if his fighting style has ever felt weird to him. Kane says no, these are ancient family secrets. But between you and me, Louis definitely knows something. Stick with me here. His dad and grandpa mastered those weapons to get strong, but Louis disagrees completely. He tells Kane there is a totally different path to take, completely separate from his crazy family. Kane is absolutely stunned by what his friend just said. Meanwhile, Louis slowly lowers his sword. He grabs a dagger from the weapon rack, turns to Kane with a grin, and asks if he wants to surprise his old man. Right then, William notices the shift as both boys suddenly leap up and rush straight at him with zero warning. Rewind to just a few minutes ago, Louis was giving Kane a quick martial arts lesson. He explained that speed is basically the ultimate weapon, and he does not just mean running fast, but insane reaction times and split-second decision-making. Thinking back to Kane's entrance exam fight, Louis points out that his crazy natural speed pairs perfectly with his wind support magic. But pure thrusting techniques are incredibly hard to master. And just because his grandpa mastered them does not mean Kane has to be a carbon copy. To fix this, Louis tosses him a pair of daggers. He explains Kane's dad stopped leveling up because he limited his own potential by copying the Grandmaster's exact style. Kane does not need to make that mistake. To unlock his true talent, his style needs to change. Louis asks if he is ready, and Kane loves the idea. He admits Louis is way different from typical nobles. Kane will do anything for freedom, even if it means mastering totally new techniques. The guys crack up, share a smoke, and scheme up a wild plan to ambush Kane's dad, just to prove his crazy potential. Watch closely, because this is how they ended up lunging right at William. Kane blasts his wind magic for an insane speed boost, and they both charge. The butler is freaking out over William's zero reaction, but William shushes him. Right as Kane strikes his dad, effortlessly blocks and dodges. He does the exact same to Louis. Louis relentlessly spams attacks, knowing daggers are the most agile weapons around, and he is trying to milk that speed advantage to the absolute max. Mixing his raw skill with his butterfly step, he tries to outpace William's reaction time and unleash max damage in literally a split second. William is genuinely caught off guard by the butterfly step, but still easily defends and dodges everything. Meanwhile, Kane activates his wind magic vaults high into the air and launches a fierce attack from the blind spot. Holding those daggers, Kane's body feels incredibly light, almost like he is practically flying. He does not just like his new weapon. Fusing daggers, combat skills, and wind magic gives him an insane rush of pure, unstoppable power. Mid-fight, he literally declares that he has finally discovered his own true martial arts path. But playtime is officially over. William flexes his massive aura instantly, sending both boys flying straight backward. I know what you're thinking, classic angry anime dad. He calls Kane totally naive for dropping the Oranka family techniques. The boys quickly recover their balance and prep round 2, relying on wind acceleration and Louis' insane speed. Yet with just a single hand flick, his father completely stops the dagger dead in its tracks. He aggressively shoves Kane back, calling his own son a total coward as he charges. Suddenly Kane remembers Louis' advice, falling back is not a weakness, it is a smart strategy you have to use. So Kane tactical retreats for a brief second. Once he plants his feet, he explodes forward at his old man again. Right as William reaches to grab him, Kane spins over his head like a literal wind tornado and strikes from behind. At that exact second, Louis dashes back in and they prep for a massive combo attack. Kane flashes back to minutes earlier when Louis taught him a weird but epic baseball trick, the classic change-up. It is a slick move where you totally fake out the opponent using sudden speed variations. With this exact trick, even the most basic slashes become completely lethal. Delay their reaction for even a microsecond, and you can absolutely overwhelm them with maximum dagger speed. That is exactly what the duo is pulling right now. But William is ready. He blocks Kane, brushing it off as a meaningless low strike. But at the final microsecond, Kane fakes him out. His blade stops literally centimeters from William's neck. William is visibly stunned by what his kid just pulled. Louis smirks, proud of his bro, ready to strike again. But William randomly announces playtime is completely over today. He glares at a sweating Kane, turns to leave, and warns him not to embarrass the Oranka family name. So what do you and I take from this? A huge win, since Dad never rejected the daggers. Let's jump right back in. As William leaves with his butler, he is totally mind-blown by the boys' wild close-range dagger strikes and rapid retreats. Honestly, this brand new fighting style, it is absolutely fascinating. A grandmaster actually learning from kids, unreal. Deep down, he is insanely proud of his son, even if the stubborn guy will never admit it aloud. Meanwhile, Louis loved sparring with a literal grandmaster. He is just a little bummed out that the epic fight ended so fast. Kane, though, pure joy. His dad finally acknowledged him for the very first time. It is the greatest feeling ever. Wanting to thank his bro, he drags Louis to the massive Oranka family library. Louis is completely stunned by the endless mountains of books. He turns around to see Kane handing over a fancy box. Kane admits he never would have found his true path this fast without Louis. Looking inside, Louis spots shiny gold and insanely rare valuable items. Plus, super rare magic books that commoners never even see. This is a huge power boost. Louis grabs one and checks the cover. They are literally academy curriculum books sorted by year. Now pay attention, because this changes things. They cover magic theory and combat. Kane explains that every freshman faces the magic awakening ritual. Louis is completely clueless. So Kane breaks it down a test to sense magical elements using the sacred statue of Gaia. He did it at the church temple himself, and get this, Even noble families have to cough up 10 gold coins for it. Louis is absolutely floored by that crazy price tag. 10 gold, that could fund his orphanage for years. Panicking, he quickly asks if the academy forces students to pay that insane fee. Kane smiles and says the academy ritual is totally free. That is exactly why half the continent tries to get accepted. But living costs, textbooks, and rent, those are still painfully expensive for a normal guy. That is exactly why Kane brought the gift. He tells Louis to take it without hesitation and just rely on him. Kane practically shoves the heavy box into his hands before he can object. He claims it just settles their earlier bet. Louis gets his friend's clever excuse and finally accepts it. Still, Louis realizes he desperately needs to find a real way to make some cash. Magic pharmacists rake in massive gold, so he looks for related books. Then a brilliant idea hits him. If he uses his past life knowledge to invent modern stuff here, he could become ridiculously rich in no time. He asks if the Aranka family knows the Merchant Guild. Kane confirms they do, looking super confused about the random question. Louis just winks, saying it is a secret for now, but knowing Kane, he will figure it out soon enough. You know that first day, feeling right. A week later, the freshmen nervously enter the Grand Academy ceremony. Louis struts in, absolutely thrilled. As he walks by, a gorgeous senior catches his scent. He is rocking the latest trending cologne. Smelling that expensive price tag, she instantly assumes he is some wealthy count's son. Time to network. She rushes over, introduces herself as Rose from class 150, and smoothly offers him a campus tour. Louis agrees and introduces himself. Rose has never heard the name Grill, but its dangerous ring hooks her. She figures he is a secret noble child. Walking together, Louis mentions how things changed since the Emperor's Garden took control. Imperial heirs have been constantly clashing with Academy nobles and all the elite families. The Academy looks super peaceful, but behind closed doors, a brutal bloodbath for educational resources. Normal students climb the ranks by earning credit points, but if you fail or become a target, instant expulsion. Rose literally points at Louis, warning him that eyes are watching and he better survive. She asks about his family backing. Louis freezes up, completely unsure, mostly because she is standing way too close. Suddenly, a guy jerks her hand away and casually introduces himself as Brian. He hypes Louis up as the commoner who shattered the entrance exam record. Louis politely says, "Hello." Rose panics. She totally wasted her sweet talking on a commoner with fancy cologne. Louis ignores her awkward retreat and turns to Brian, who laughs and says to ignore her. Brian explains the academy is just a mini empire full of weirdos. As Kane shouts for Louis, Brian runs off, yelling to call him anytime. Louis is confused, but you and I are about to learn why. Kane reveals Brian is the Chancellor's son, not exactly a buddy. Suddenly, Faye pops in, calling Brian completely weak-willed. Seeing Faye, Kane instantly gets defensive, sparking a hilarious shouting match with Miliana. Let's dive in. Her sweet friend drags Faye away to finally finish registration. Louis thanks Faye for having his back during the exam, but she insists he earned it himself, teasing Kane the whole time as Miliana drags her off. Kane then turns to Louis, revealing a massive pile of coins. He explains this is his official cut of the profits. Louis is absolutely stunned by all this gold. Kane smiles, saying it's all thanks to following his orders back at the trading company. Earlier, they went out to sell perfume. That was his big secret weapon. He created a brand new formula. The subtle scent totally separates it from standard perfumes. Kane loves the smell, but totally doubted if it would make any cash. But Louis knew his product was top tier, and that confidence paid off with massive profits. Way more money than Kane ever expected. Planning to give a chunk to his mom, he stares at Louis, totally curious about what goes on inside his genius head. Heading toward reception, Louis asks him to keep this whole business quiet. Kane instantly agrees. Soon after, a teacher hands Louis his academy card. He warns him not to lose it and wishes him good luck. During registration, whispers completely surround Louis. Nobles call him shameless, totally disgusted that the academy actually lets commoners mix with them. The rumor mill is crazy. They gossip about him beating Faye and Shane and how students got expelled because of him. Now pay attention here. Sheath actually hired an assassin guild. Once the academy found out about that, boom, instant expulsion. It finally clicks. Sheath was hunting him down this whole time. Kane drops another bomb. Sheath has a crazy older brother named Jess. He is completely unpredictable, so Louis needs to watch his back. Louis locks eyes with Jess across the room. No fear, no anger. But Jess, he is hyped. He is plotting to make Louis the most miserable student in academy history. Cut to the grand hall where every single fresh student is gathered. The principal steps up, welcoming them warmly. He says they should be super proud of surviving everything to get here. But reality check, this is just the tutorial phase of their lives. They need to grind hard and aim for peak power. Someday they will forge their own paths and become absolute pillars of the entire empire. Then comes the big announcement. The freshman rep Neil Gunn will deliver the opening speech. He calls the #1 student onto the stage. You and I are seeing this right. Neil takes the stage projecting insane killing intent, but the guy is completely naked. Students are disgusted, yet shocked he took first place. The examiners are absolutely horrified and try stopping him, but the principal holds them back. Neil glares at the freshmen, calling them absolute morons. His speech, a promise to beat every single one of them to death. The crowd goes wild with rage. Just because he scored first place doesn't give him the right to act so ridiculously arrogant. Neil just tells them to shut up, and instantly, dead silence. They know they are weaker. Watching this absolute menace, the teachers are sweating. They have zero clue how to handle a psycho kid like this. Some consider quitting. Suddenly, Neil launches his massive hammer off the stage. He declares his real opponent is him. Boom! The hammer crashes down right in front of Louis. Neil leaps onto the handle like a madman, hyping up their legendary clash. Kane instantly panics. He jumps in protectively, putting himself directly between Neil and Louis. He yells at Neil, reminding him the ceremony is still happening. He tells him to back off and stay far away from his friend. Neil just laughs. He mocks Kane for being scared, calling him just another weak, pale noble. That pushes Kane over the edge. Furious, he winds up a punch, but Louis quickly grabs his arm, urging him to calm down. Neil smirks, calling them both pathetic cowards. He doesn't mind taking them on, clearly provoking them. Out of nowhere, Brian steps in to mediate. Flexing his status as a top commoner, he urges them to get along. He warns that acting selfish means zero survival here. Neil completely ignores him. He tells Brian to get lost, treating him like absolute nothing. Brian turns bright red. Kane finds this hilarious, while Louis is just super confused why Brian even tried defending this maniac. The crowd starts buzzing. Everyone is shocked. A talented commoner like Brian just got publicly humiliated. Kane grins at the awkwardness. Annoyed, Neil threatens to smash Brian completely, but a teacher finally stops him. The teacher strictly reminds them fighting is banned outside of official matches or tests. One violation equals immediate expulsion from the academy. Neil instantly drops the crazy act. Embarrassed, he realizes getting kicked out of a serious university is a very bad idea. He finally backs off. But trust me, you and I know this rivalry is far from over. Alright, you and I are jumping right back in. The teacher wraps up the entrance ceremony, giving everyone the day off before classes begin. Louis has zero clue why Neil suddenly came at him. Kane immediately points fingers at Faye, dragging her straight into the mess. Faye smacks Kane away, admitting their near expulsion was slightly her fault since she actually brawled with Neil during finals. That fight ended in a draw, but rumors say Neil lost to Louis, which completely fueled his petty revenge. Faye is just super relieved. Louis is safe and the whole brawl ended fine. Louis plays it cool. These two are definitely getting along. But Kane suddenly drags Louis away. He points out the glaring crowd. Yep, the entire academy is staring. Our crew is already painfully unpopular. Later on, the boys hit up the academy shop. Louis nearly chokes. Everything here is just ridiculously overpriced. The shop girl claims it is not that bad. She shows off a fluffy feather pillow for 30 silver coins. Even that is way too much. She points to even pricier ones, and Louis just slaps his forehead. This economy is absolutely wild. Kane says this is actually the cheap stuff. Since they need basic necessities, he tells Louis to just treat himself for once. Louis quickly learns that cash is king here. Using some secret savings, he buys the absolute cheapest starter kit for 100 silver coins. The girl rings him up. Honestly, he is so relieved he made that perfume money earlier. Without it, he would have been totally broke and doomed. Now he plans to send his leftover cash straight to the orphanage. Spotting some essential cleaning magic potions, he realizes he desperately needs more side hustles. Outside, he spots Faye and Miliana walking to the dorms. Faye is asking all about Miliana and her big magic awakening ritual tomorrow. Louis stares at the massive bags in their hands. He suddenly realizes just how much cash they blew on packages. Thinking about his family working hard back home, he heads inside and finds room 60. Praying his roommate is not a total thug, he suddenly stops. Someone just threw a futon down, completely blocking the hallway. Now watch closely, things are about to get real. Inside, older boys are bullying a freshman, demanding absolute obedience. Classic academy trash. They corner the kid, who honestly just looks bored. A bully grabs him, but suddenly smack. Someone taps the bully, sending shockwaves up his arm. Louis casually reminds them that duels are totally forbidden. Do they really want to get expelled? The bullies glare at him. They insist they did nothing wrong except he threw the first punch. One guy lunges right at Louis, but he easily dodges. Missing his target, the bully accidentally smacks his own friend, knocking him straight to the floor. Louis just smirks. He did not hit anyone. The punched kid cries, demanding to know why his buddy attacked him. Total confusion. Then Louis kicks, forcing a guy's leg to jerk and nail his crouching friend. While they panic, Louis punches the leader, sending him flying backward. The stunned bully still has no clue and blames Louis. Louis smirks again, saying they only hurt each other. The bully screams that Louis controlled them, calling him a monster, a word Louis hates. He steps forward, but the bullied kid jumps in. He asks Lewis to just drop the issue. Lewis gives the bullies one final warning, then officially declares that they are free to scram. The thugs run off muttering threats. Helping the freshmen pack up, Lewis spots the name Kara Candace on the bedding. He tries chatting, but Kara vanishes. Talk about extreme shyness. Let's pause for a second. Lewis just survived a chaotic first day, and he really hopes tomorrow's magic ritual stays perfectly normal. Meanwhile, some shady guys are already tampering with the Great Hall, plotting against him. The next day arrives. Every single student and freshman gathers in the massive Great Hall. Lewis walks in with his roommate, Kara. The kid is completely silent and still refuses to speak a single word. Lewis stares up at the gigantic statue in the center of the hall, the beautiful goddess of this entire world. A priest stands right at the base, grabbing everyone's attention to officially introduce the goddess Gaia. He launches into a long history lesson. Long ago, Gaia created a world for humans and monsters. But eventually, those massive monsters turned their overwhelming natural powers straight against the weaker humans. Dragons dominated the skies, giant behemoths crushed the land, and terrifying krakens ruled the deep seas. Thanks to the brutal clashes between these mighty beasts, the earth was literally soaked in blood. Countless humans were totally wiped out during this nightmare. Seeing her beautiful world ruined, the goddess Gaia grew absolutely furious. She blessed the magicless humans to master the 4 world elements. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. Stick with me: water, earth, wind, and fire. That is how martial arts began here. Centuries of brutal, bloody warfare passed. Finally, humanity dodged total wipeout and claimed the entire world for themselves. Today, these academy kids standing here, they are the direct bloodline of those absolute legends who unlocked magic and awakened the true power of this world. Louis is all ears. But get this. The principal totally skipped mentioning that first epic hero from earlier. Weird, right? Meanwhile, Kara keeps staring at our silent boy Louis. Before he can react, a shady priest walks up and directs the kids to sit down. They are super confused, but play along anyway. The priest announces that anyone with real magical talent will easily feel the elements around them. But if you are weak and feel absolute zero, then pack your bags, you are out. Right as he says that, the guy glares at Louis. The tension in the air is instantly super heavy. Wrapping up his speech, he tells everyone the awakening ritual is officially starting, ordering them to sit tight. Our guy Louis is totally distracted. He keeps wondering what he did to tick off this random priest so badly. The guy kicks off the ritual, shouting about the 4 main elements and telling everyone to focus their minds. He tells them to reach out to whatever energy they feel, promising the goddess will unlock their hidden elemental potential. Boom! He casts a spell and 4 giant elemental symbols instantly light up the corners of the massive room. These things are glowing like crazy, blasting out shockwaves of pure energy that practically blind the entire class. Out of nowhere, a massive godlike projection of the goddess Gaia materializes right above their heads. Looking up feels like floating deep in outer space, completely surrounded by glowing, colorful magic orbs. The visuals are absolutely breathtaking. Kid after kid gets matched with an element. Some are hyped beyond belief, while others look totally crushed. Now watch this part closely. A crazy, powerful tornado suddenly wraps completely around one lucky freshman. Wait, 2 elements in one guy, that is legendary tier. The whole room completely loses it when they realize it is Neil, a total commoner. The crowd is stunned at how effortlessly he pulls in raw magic. Is this kid an absolute genius or what? Neil is literally on cloud 9, rocking both fire and earth powers. He instantly starts flexing his new stats, acting arrogant and ordering the other students to bow down. Mid-flex, he glances back and sees Louis just sitting there meditating. Neil instantly laughs it off. A zero magic loser like that cannot possibly be his rival, right? Deep down though, he actually hopes Louis pulls through. The whole class stares at Louis now, but awkward silence. 0 elemental energy is gathering around him. Absolutely nothing. The whispers start flying since they expected him to be overpowered. Honestly, Louis is getting super annoyed himself. Is it because he is literally from another world? Right now, he feels like he is drowning in pure, suffocating darkness. But wait, that makes no sense. When he fought Kane earlier, he definitely felt a weird buzz of magical energy. Now his brain feels completely smothered, like a massive foggy wall is blocking his elemental radar. Louis is furious now. No way is he letting some random invisible barrier crush his spirit. He locks in. Pure, raw willpower explodes out of him, forcefully ripping that dark cloud to shreds. Eyes snap open and boom, the colorful elements are right there. Up in the stands, the shady priest is sweating. His secret mind-severing magic circle just shattered into pieces. The guy is utterly panicking, wondering how Louis brute-forced his way through. Louis reaches a hand out for the water energy, but it straight up dodges him. He can see everything but grasping it. Impossible. He keeps swiping at the water magic, getting more and more heated with every failed grab. Yep, another dirty trick from our favorite corrupt priest. The dude secretly planted a confinement spell built to jam any spiritual connection. Plus, he hid forbidden ores in there which literally nuke a person's elemental link to 0. The grand master plan. Even if Louis broke the mind trap, he still would not catch a single drop of magic. I know what you're thinking. Someone in this academy wants Louis completely crushed no matter what. Honestly, the priest blames Louis for making enemies this fast. Thanks to his attitude, some rich hater practically bribed the priest with a heavy bag to ruin Louis's big day. Getting paid, the priest just waits for Louis to suffer a complete mental breakdown. Soon enough, the successful students start emptying out of the Great Hall. The trash talk gets loud. They mock Louis, saying he acted like a total badass earlier, but is actually just a magicless weakling. Trust me, watch this. Kara notices something wild pointing right at Louis. Alright, you and I are jumping right back into the madness. He warns about a floor trap. Louis looks down, realizing Kara is totally right. Wham, he punches the mat, destroying it to reveal a hidden orb underneath. Kara tells him to hurry and leaves. Louis just smiles. Why would someone plant this? Was it just a random coincidence? He is seriously confused. But then he glances over at the priest. Yeah, it is definitely not a coincidence after all. Whatever, he brushes it off. It is time for the main event. Louis stands tall, letting the elements sense his presence. Suddenly, all the orbs rush toward Louis. They swirl into a massive vortex, just like the one Neil pulled off earlier. The noble students are absolutely losing it. Why are these commoners suddenly getting so ridiculously overpowered? The priest is completely stunned. How did Louis bypass the curse to awaken this? Even a true master should not break that confinement circle and the forbidden orbs. Suddenly, a heavy hand drops right onto his shoulder. He turns around and freezes. The principal is glaring daggers at him angrily, ordering him to stand down and leave immediately. The priest has no choice but to back off. Nearby students start whispering, "Why on earth is the principal here?" Some think he is just checking on the talentless commoner, but others, they strongly suspect some wild secret connection between the principal and Louis. Nobody actually knows. Meanwhile, the furious priest is storming off, raging about the principal showing up just to ruin his master plan. Now pay attention here. He leaves the hall and meets Jess outside. The priest bitterly admits that their whole plan totally failed. He warns they need to lay low and separate for a while. Jess agrees, claiming he will handle the rest from here. Jess is boiling mad, absolutely determined to crush Louis no matter what. Back inside, the principal quietly orders his trusted aide Kylie to closely watch that priest. Outsiders causing trouble at his academy, not happening here. With the trash cleared out, the principal focuses entirely on Louis. Louis is deep in meditation, awakening multiple elements at once. He looks totally zoned out. And honestly, he is. Inside his mind space, he is completely amazed by the countless floating elements. Flashback to a few days ago at Kane's place. They were deeply discussing elemental magic. Kane explained that elements are the world's foundation created by the goddess. This confused Louis. Why can monsters use magic right from birth? Why do humans have to awaken it first? Kane revealed that monsters actually have magical crystals growing inside them. He even tossed one to Louis, explaining they hold elemental power. That is what gives monsters a natural magic affinity from day one. Humans, however, have to do an awakening ritual. They need an element to recognize them first. Only then can they manipulate the surrounding energy to cast their spells. During the ritual, compatible elements draw near. Once you get recognized, you just have to grind and train your body and mind. Staring at that crystal, Louis figured it was basically just a super condensed chunk of raw elements. Kane dropped the bomb that the whole world is made of elements. Humans just cannot see them. Let us pause for a second. Remembering this, Louis guesses the water element floating right there might actually be his perfect match. But when he touches it, he feels everything at once. From peaceful mermaid currents to the terrifying wrath of krakens, immense overwhelming energy violently surges straight through his entire body, bringing pure agony. It feels like the very essence of the world is manifesting directly through the goddess's will. He is literally drowning in elemental power. The intense sensation is just way too much for him to handle. Seeing Louis violently struggling, the principal knows things are getting extremely dangerous. He instantly throws up a goddess barrier around the hall, creating a massive protective shield. Gaia strengthens the defense. The four elemental corners form a cage-like barrier right around Louis while he fights this absolute storm of raw power. The trapped students are totally blinded by the light, but they can all feel that crazy, overwhelming energy blasting off of Louis. They are completely terrified and confused. Why did the principal just seal this kid inside a barrier? Holding the shield, the principal screams for Louis to calm down. He tells him not to be consumed by the swirling chaos. Louis hears him and snaps back to reality. Within seconds, that raging vortex finally starts to calm down. Wiping a tear from his face, he realizes that was a seriously close call. He almost completely lost his mind in there. Looking closer at the elements, he notices something super familiar. Wait, they act exactly like the elementary particles from his past life. If they really behave like those particles, manipulating their frequency could create absolutely insane results. Trust me, you are going to want to see this. A particle bursts open, and the elements start swirling all over again. Let's jump into this. The principal is absolutely stunned by this massive rainbow-colored tornado right in front of him. Students are literally shaking at this terrifying display of power. Even the headmaster knows things have completely spiraled out of control. And right in the middle of that vortex, our boy Lewis. He's just casually studying the elements like a science fair project. He starts thinking humans could easily use magic, just like monsters, as long as they can control these exact frequencies. Slowly, raw elements start flowing straight into his bloodstream. Lewis realizes these elementary particles are constantly in motion. By syncing that movement with his breathing and chi flow, circulating the elements inside his body suddenly gets way smoother. If he keeps up this balance, he might actually forge a magic crystal internally and pull off high-tier techniques. Boom, the leftover elements rush straight into his brain. When he opens his eyes, they're glowing with a crazy snowflake pattern. At that exact second, sharp icicles start forming around him. They shatter the barrier, exploding across the hall. Lewis actually floats up as elemental power surges through him. The students completely panic and run as the spreading ice freezes absolutely everything. The principal sees his half-frozen students and realizes things are getting critical. He has to suppress this crazy power fast. Now watch closely here. He pulls a golden shield from his cloak, praying for the Academy's flame power. He holds the shield high, making it shine like crazy, and casts a massive flame barrier over the whole university. Those flames finally reach Lewis. The moment they touch him, that crazy ice armor slowly begins to melt away. A blinding light erupts from the Great Hall, flashing so bright you can see it across the entire academy. People all over campus see the sudden glow and totally freak out, wondering what the heck is happening inside. Lewis finally touches back down, while the principal just stares at him, totally baffled by that ice-like element. Meanwhile, Lewis is completely zoned out in meditation. In his mind, he's watching elemental particles spinning insanely fast in his hand. Slowly, they start fusing. Lewis runs the quick math in his head. He figures out that mixing the 4 base elements triggers completely new reactions, creating something entirely different. Right then, his wind and water elements actually start blending together. But honestly, he has absolutely zero clue what to do with this breakthrough. Right now, he seriously needs a master's guidance. Getting more confused, Lewis realizes he needs to wake up. Opening his eyes, he finds the principal standing right there. He looks around, spotting the protective flame shield still surrounding them both. The principal drops his hand, dismissing the barrier, and calmly asks if he realizes what he just did. "You and I saw this coming, right?" Lewis sees the frozen students and realizes he really messed up. Feeling completely embarrassed, Lewis laughs nervously. He admits he made a little mess and thanks the principal for the save. The principal turns to his trusted assistant Kylie. He says he's taking Lewis to his office while she cleans up this absolute disaster. He tells Lewis to follow him and says he can ask whatever he wants on the way. They head straight back to the office. Once there, the Gaia statue seems to glare intensely at Lewis. First off, the principal congratulates him for awakening every single element. Lewis chugs a calming potion because he is completely wiped out. Lewis nods in agreement, then shows those elements floating from his hands. The principal is seriously impressed. Controlling elements this smoothly as a total newbie is insane, and he can barely believe Lewis just awakened them. The kid's talent is unreal. The principal hands him a magic study book, telling him to read it super carefully for reference. He explains that his own specialty is earth and wind. So, for fire and water, Lewis should ask Faye and Miliana. Since they're from elite families, they know all the secret high-tier techniques. Then he calls his apprentice Kylie inside. When she walks in, the magical snake morphs right into a beautiful woman. The principal introduces the two of them, explaining that from now on, Kylie is basically his personal bodyguard. After that, Kylie suggests moving to a more private spot where they can actually talk freely. She takes them to an abandoned building. Lewis asks why they're here, and the principal says it's his secret training and meditation spot. He's reinforced the whole area with earth magic, making it incredibly tough and completely soundproof. Kylie tells Lewis to show her the elements. He demonstrates how he accidentally unlocked ice during his awakening ritual. He explains that spinning and mixing elements births a new one ice. And trust me, you're going to want to see what's next. Stick with me here because you and I are about to see magic history. Kylie is absolutely shocked. Just like he said that freezing energy draws her in smiling. Without warning, she dashes straight at Louis. She demands to feel that ice power firsthand. A wild storm of punches flies, but Louis casually blocks everything with magic, then drops a solid counterattack that actually forces her to back off. Blending 2 elements, she finally grasps how insane this is. She immediately turns to the headmaster, asking if anyone has ever pulled this off before. The principal shakes his head. Literally, no one has. Since the dawn of magic, scholars and absolute geniuses threw their entire lives into mastering the arts. Yet blending elements, a total dead end for everyone. Normal mages get one single element. Only freakish talents can handle a few. Take Lady Mirren, the strongest saint in the Empire. An absolute once-in-a-century prodigy wielding 3 elements. But when she tried mixing just two, total disaster. It nearly shattered her mind and body. Louis suddenly gets it, regular humans just cannot survive fusing magic. The headmaster lays out the harsh truth. The human body and mind just shatter under that pressure. Boosting elements like Louis did takes ridiculous mental strength to control and safely let loose. Crashing different energies together creates entirely new powers, but mess up even slightly, it is an instant game over. Now pay attention here, because this is where everything escalates. She realizes his power might actually rival a saint and decides to give him a real test. Fire bursts from her hands as she charges right back into battle. They clash hard while Principal Smith brings up Lady Mirren's old theory. Her theory. To juggle multiple elements, you either need a dragon-level physique to tank the blasts or monster cores like actual magic beasts use. Louis quickly asks how that crazy research turned out. Disastrous, the principal admits. Every single Empire experiment crashed and burned, making the whole concept highly illegal and completely forbidden. Breaking a taboo like that, unthinkable. Seeing a kid actually pull it off leaves him totally speechless. Louis connects the dots. By running the magic through totally separate paths, he dodged the internal explosions. Do not get arrogant, Kylie snaps, bringing him back to reality. Louis knows the massive risks involved. Power brings trouble just like his past life taught him. But this time, he is keeping a tight grip on things. If the world found out his little secret, Kylie warns that the fallout would be absolutely unpredictable. The headmaster made her his bodyguard, and she hates dealing with extra drama. So yeah, she tells him to stay low-key. Louis nods casually, mentioning his ice element is just a tweaked version of the water magic he summoned. Wait, a what? The principal is confused. Louis explains his insane willpower lets him literally crush water into solid ice using extreme pressure. Mid-explanation, he tells Kylie to strike him again. As she dives in, he instantly shows off that wild water magic. He compresses the water so hard it instantly freezes, throwing up a massive ice shield right in front. You and I both felt that, right? Kylie and the principal are stunned as he casually calls it superionic ice. How did normal water become fireproof ice that actually radiates heat? Kylie is practically begging for answers. Simple science, really. Louis smirks, explaining how crazy pressure changes liquid states using his hidden past life knowledge. The headmaster looks at him totally amazed, noting how much of the world remains a complete mystery. He tells Louis his door is always open. He even promises personal tutoring to master these wild new abilities safely. Plus, he will hand over full credit for any new magic discoveries. Oh man, Louis is absolutely loving this deal. But Kylie, sweating bullets. She asks if the boss is seriously going to protect this kid. What they just witnessed defies every single magic textbook in existence. Maybe a fluke. The principal shrugs, pointing out that half the magic books started as total coincidences anyway. He refuses to shut down a genius in the making. Kylie hears him loud and clear, accepting her boss's commands. She realizes our guy is going to be the highest maintenance student ever. A total headache, but she accepts the crazy job anyway. In a flash, she vanishes to handle her other tasks. The headmaster then hands over a mental recovery potion. It will reboot his energy completely, but comes with a strict warning not to chug too many. With classes starting tomorrow, he needs sleep. Louis downs the drink, totally mind blown that magic potions for your brain are actually a real thing here. Back at his dorm, that potion has him buzzing. Wide awake, he figures he might as well just cultivate and meditate till sunrise. Walking in, he spots Kara wide awake too. He asks what in the world he is doing up, and if he stayed awake waiting for him. Touched by the loyalty, Louis gives a genuine thanks. Kara seriously saved his neck today. Here's what you and I must find out next. How exactly did our hero notice the rare artifact the principal asked about? Stick with me here. Kara stays silent, simply handing our hero a Gandus Trading Company card. Now Louis knows why she's so knowledgeable. She mutters a quick thanks and slips out the door. Louis gets it, she's just repaying him for saving her earlier. Plus, as a merchant's kid, it's just smart networking. Next morning, at the Candria Arcanist Training Hall, students gather to meet their new physical instructor, Derek. He's supposed to teach martial arts basics, but honestly, the guy comes off totally gross and creepy. Every single student, guys and girls alike, feels completely disgusted. Kane thinks the dude is weird, but Louis, he's just staring at Derek's insanely toned muscles, super eager to train his own body and mind. Derek spots our boy instantly. With lightning speed, he slides right in behind him. Louis senses him instantly while Kane just completely freezes. Leaning in way too close, Derek praises Louis's masterclass physique, wanting to train him personally. Louis is feeling both super disgusted and extremely cautious. Derek then turns to Kane, mocking his zero muscle mass. All flashy blonde hair, but absolutely no raw strength. Kane looks super annoyed, but Derek ignores him. Class kicks off with Academy tradition, the seniors demonstrating the training gear. Jess and some seniors stroll in, trashing the freshmen. They mock them as unreliable, saying even great families look completely disgraceful. They strut right in, acting like they own the entire hall. Kane and our guy look annoyed while Derek asks the seniors to show their strength. One senior hits the magic-enhanced pec deck for his chest and arms. He effortlessly lifts a massive 1 ton of weight like it's nothing. The students are completely shocked. They could never manage that. Another guy spins at crazy speeds while someone else runs the treadmill with 250-kilo weights strapped to his legs. Derek lets the freshmen try, warning them not to overdo it. They all struggle horribly, clearly lacking athletic skill. The seniors laugh, but watch this. They suddenly notice someone absolutely destroying the workout machines. But then they see our hero. He's working out like it's a total joke. Lifting 10 tons with ease, running the treadmill until it almost explodes and spinning like a literal tornado. The class is totally stunned. They think it's impossible, even suspecting he's using enhancement drugs. Meanwhile, Neil is fighting his own battle. The guy is in a totally different league. He bench presses a crazy 15 tons like it means absolutely nothing to him. He straps on 20 tons of weight and jogs on the treadmill like he's just taking a casual Sunday stroll through the park. Everyone else just stares in absolute horror. They are watching a literal monster train in human form. Set finished, he drops that massive weight right in front of Lewis. A deafening crash. Yeah, his aggressive intentions are painfully obvious now. In his head, this flex proves he wins simply because he's way stronger than everyone else. He glares right at Lewis. He tells him to ignore everyone else so they can finally settle this tension between them once and for all. The hilarious part, Lewis doesn't even see this as a rivalry at all. You and I can both clearly see Neil's massive ego here, desperately trying to prove he's the strongest academy student. Ironically, that arrogant attitude just irritates Lewis even more. He rubs his forehead, totally exhausted by how much this guy keeps assuming about him. It's literally day one at the academy. All they're doing right now is just some basic physical training. The whole goal here is just building up their endurance, nothing else. Lewis flat out tells Neil that showing off his strength like this is completely pointless and childish. But before they finish, Jess suddenly gets super offended by that comment. Even though Lewis wasn't talking to him, Jess assumes the insult is his. His expression quickly darkens with pure anger. He warns Lewis to drop the arrogance just because he thinks he's slightly stronger than the rest. Jess claims raw physical strength means nothing in the end. True power actually comes from magical attributes. That immediately hooks Lewis's attention. He pauses and asks what exactly these attributes even are. Neil answers confidently, proudly bragging that he has the rare dual attributes of fire and earth. The second, he says that Jess looks completely and genuinely stunned. A commoner with both fire and earth, that is unheard of. Even Jess knows how crazy that combo is. Smug Neil turns back to Lewis, demanding to know what attribute he actually possesses. Lewis calmly answers that he has the water attribute. Instantly, Jess just completely bursts into loud laughter. Out of everything possible, he gets water. To a guy like Jess, that sounds absolutely pathetic. Jess openly mocks him, asking what a water attribute can even do in a real fight. Splashing puddles so enemies slip. Trust me, you'll want to see how Lewis handles this disrespect. Stick with me here. Louis just stands there, totally confused why everyone thinks water is a joke. Milana finally steps in to break it down. She explains that water attribute martial arts are basically seen as starter-level trash compared to the big, flashy elements. Their main attack is literally just Aqua Blade. It is an ability meant way more for defense and healing than actually blowing things up. So naturally, society treats water users like garbage. Everyone assumes they are way weaker than fighters packing those heavy-hitting, hyper-destructive elemental powers. Louis just goes quiet for a second, letting all of this ridiculous information sink in. Up until this exact moment, he genuinely had no clue his element was treated this badly. Jess keeps piling on the insults. He flat out says that no matter how physically buff Louis gets awakening, the water element basically means his entire future is dead. The whole pack of bullies around him just erupts into vicious laughter. One guy smugly chimes in, claiming that in all of human history, 0 water users have ever made it to the Grandmaster tier. So they mockingly tell Louis to know his place. They want him to just sit back and play support for the real main characters. In their eyes, his only job is to hide behind actual fighters and pass them buffs during a battle. Louis is instantly annoyed by their arrogant tone. He narrows his eyes, asking if they actually believe a water user can never push past the master level, no matter how hard they train or what they do. Jess just rolls his eyes like the answer is super obvious, calling it basic common sense. He sneers, calling him a clueless commoner. But watch closely because this guy is begging for a beatdown. He says someone has to teach him how reality works. Right then, Kane finally hits his boiling point and angrily snaps back at the group. Faye jumps in too loudly, demanding the bullies shut their mouths since they clearly have zero clue what they are talking about. The tension instantly skyrockets, and their yelling match just keeps getting louder by the second. Then Jess smoothly walks over to the instructor, pointing out that seniors are supposed to be perfect role models for the fresh rookies. So he suggests a brand new exercise. He claims that real magic needs more than just mana control. You also need a tough body that can take heavy damage. According to his twisted logic, getting hit directly is the best endurance training. It forces the body to adapt and hardens their mana under extreme pressure. Flashing a super toxic grin, Jess asks for a friendly little sparring match that doubles as a physical endurance test. He arrogantly announces he will personally show the freshman exactly why the water element is totally useless in a real fight. Right then, Kane leans in fast, frantically, whispering a massive warning into Louis's ear. Turns out Jess is the older brother of that exact same bully Louis, utterly humiliated earlier. Plus, water users are famous for having zero defensive bulk when it comes to taking physical damage. You and I both know the truth. Jess is planning to beat Louis half to death publicly. But even hearing that, Louis completely brushes off his best friend's panic. He just faces the teacher and deadpan states that superior and inferior attributes are basically a made-up myth. The instructor takes that as an official acceptance, and Louis locks it in without hesitating for a second. He promises to solo the seniors and absolutely shatter their worldview. Meanwhile, the older guys are practically drooling for this beatdown to start. Kane makes one final desperate plea to stop him, but Louis just smiles and says it will be totally fine. The teacher steps up to explain the rules. Magic stays strictly inside the main ring, and he demands that everyone relies purely on their raw physical stats and the muscle they have spent years building up. He lays down the ultimate rule: absolutely no dodging allowed during this brutal exchange. You have to plant your feet and tank the damage. Just as they square up, a massive fiery explosion blasts right next to them. Neil charges out of the smoke covered in flames and cackling like a psycho. He screams that his time has finally come, hyped to finally throw down in a real bloody fight. The elite seniors get instantly triggered by his loud entrance. One guy aggressively steps up looking furious and promises to physically educate Neil on how to respect his absolute betters. Activating his earth power, he wraps himself in heavy rock armor and charges with some terrifying breakneck speed. It looks like a one-hit kill strike. But before he even lands it, a colossal fist smashes directly into his face with insane monster-level power. His armor completely shatters. And trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Stick with me here, let's dive into the crazy aftermath of that massive hit. Everyone is absolutely stunned as Neil casually steps up. The senior who got punched literally cannot process what just went down. His earth armor is supposed to be top-tier defense. But Neil, he just shattered the whole thing with one single punch. Super embarrassed and seeing red, Jess immediately screams at the other seniors to jump Neil and take him down by pure force. The seniors rush him all at once, but Neil doesn't even flinch. He looks absolutely hyped. Dude literally rips off his shirt for extra drama, flexing his crazy physique like he is showing off for an invisible crowd. Flashing a totally unhinged grin, he charges straight in. Their combined attacks hit him, but he barely even feels a thing. Their hits do zero damage, but every single punch Neil throws back is absolutely devastating. He grabs a guy and throws him so hard he bowls over everyone behind him, but for one tiny second Neil's back is wide open. An Earth attribute senior spots the opening and immediately rushes in for revenge. He goes all in, convinced he found a weak spot. But watch what happens here. The second his attack connects, his cocky grin completely vanishes. Instead of actually hurting Neil, he literally shatters his own rocky armor. A second later, the adrenaline completely wears off. Insane pain hits him all at once, and his brutal scream echoes across the whole arena. The terrified guy finally figures it out. Neil just focused all his mana into one single spot, boosting his defense to an absurd level. He literally cannot wrap his head around a first year having such terrifying mana control already. Before he can even stand up, Neil kicks him hard, sending him flying straight into a wall. The teacher just watches all this chaos looking completely bored. He calmly tells the class that no matter how strong they get, never ever ignore basic fundamentals, unless they really want to end up totally trashed on the floor like that senior. Meanwhile, Louis watches this brutal beatdown, getting seriously nervous. Even he has to admit this is a total massacre. He quietly asks Kane if maybe Neil is taking things way too far. But before Kane can even respond, a sneak attack comes from behind. Kane spots it instantly. Faye and Louis see another upperclassman rushing them from the front. Without missing a beat, Kane and Faye both step up to shield Louis. Plus, they really want to prove to these arrogant seniors that the freshmen are not just weak little prey waiting to get crushed. Standing right between his friends, Louis slowly looks up at Jess. They lock eyes from completely opposite sides of the training arena. Louis stays super chill and just tells him that it is finally time for their main event. Jess just laughs in his face. He mocks Louis, saying he is way too full of himself if he thinks he is main event material. Calling him ignorant and totally blind to his own rank, Jess proudly announces he is the heir to the prestigious and super influential Harry family. Flexing his family name, he promises to personally teach a low-born nobody like Louis a serious lesson. He wants to show him true noble pride, because to Jess only, real nobles actually understand basic honor and manners. The second he finishes his little speech, Jess jumps super high and dives straight at Louis with absolutely insane speed. He fires off Gale Penetration, aiming a literally deadly strike right at Louis. Right before it hits, Louis pops up an ice shield. And you and I both know anime logic, Jess is totally not ready for this. Not only is the ice shield tough enough to block the hit without even cracking, but the freezing cold energy blasting off it is so crazy intense, Jess has to instantly back off. Jess stares at his own hands in pure shock. They are literally freezing just from touching that ice wall. He refuses to believe this terrifying power is just basic water magic. Louis casually confirms it is simply a smart application of water magic techniques. Over on the side, Milana watches this super closely, because honestly, even she has never seen water magic used quite like this before. The other students are completely mind-blown. None of them have ever seen an ice shield, let alone water magic being twisted into something this crazy strong. Jess totally refuses to accept reality, convincing himself Louis is just pulling off some cheap weird trick with his water magic. Brian just mutters that this year's freshmen are a bunch of massive troublemakers. Jess decides that whatever weird skills Louis has, he is still going to beat him down and teach him a lesson. Just then, Jess glances over at Neil, who is still absolutely wrecking seniors back-to-back, and angrily rushes straight at him instead. Neil spots Jess charging in and gets super hyped, totally assuming Jess is just lining up to be his next punching bag. Neil throws a massive punch, but Jess smoothly dodges it, laughing that he completely missed. And that is where we leave it. Trust me, you will want to see what happens next. Over the next few seconds, Jess moves so crazy fast that Neil completely misses every single strike. But stick with me here, because Jess isn't actually trying to beat Neil. He is totally just using him as bait to sneak right up on Louis. The second he spots a gap, Jess charges straight at Louis with pure murderous intent. But before he even gets close, Neil suddenly blasts in front and attacks Jess head-on. Jess dodges the hit again, instantly warping right behind Louis for another cheap shot. But nope, Louis throws up another thick ice shield and blocks him cold. Louis just laughs at Jess, totally roasting him for constantly bragging about his noble honor. Yet all this guy does is backstab. To Louis, those fancy noble ideals are complete trash against him. Jess snaps right back, claiming that a true noble just does whatever it takes to win fights. Winning is his absolute destiny. And even while dodging deadly attacks, these two keep throwing hilarious insults around. Neil gets super annoyed watching this comedy show. He abruptly leaps right between them and strikes again. Louis barely dodges the hit and looks totally confused. Wait, wasn't Neil supposed to be his teammate? Plus, getting dragged into a messy 2-versus-1 battle is really starting to annoy him. Jess thinks he finally has the upper hand with Louis distracted, so he lunges in for the kill. But at the absolute last second, Neil totally catches up and violently shoves Jess right away. Jess goes absolutely ballistic at Neil's crazy behavior as he gets launched backward. Meanwhile, Neil screams that he better stop underestimating him and accept that teaming up is actually the smartest move. Watch closely now. With Jess knocked away, Neil turns to Louis with absolute crazy excitement in his eyes. He flat out says that with the annoying noble gone, it is finally time for just the two of them to brawl face to face. Their teacher watches super carefully, realizing both guys use fighting styles built on pure speed, crazy precision, and extreme close combat. To the teacher, these two kids are absolute fighting geniuses. Moving at this pace, they could totally surpass William himself. Louis keeps dodging Neil's wild strikes until he suddenly grabs his arm and punches straight for his throat. Neil's absolute biggest weak spot. Neil instantly chokes for air, completely gasping and totally breathless from that brutal hit. Faye gets super mad at Louis screaming right at him because crushing a throat is dangerously lethal. But when Louis looks away for just one split second, Neil violently snatches his hand right back. Pure rage flashes through Neil's eyes, realizing he finally caught his prey. He promises Louis that he is about to feel some actual pain. Neil violently slams his head forward, headbutting Louis while growling that a guy like him should never match his power on equal footing. Because according to Neil, the real fun is just beginning. Louis just glares back coldly, reminding him that academy rules literally forbid students from trying to severely injure one another during tests. You see this right? Neil completely crossed a major line. Right then, Louis unleashed his inner water element. Instantly, massive streams of water erupt everywhere as his awakened powers violently surge outward. Neil watches all this with crazy interest, but he stays completely cocky. In his twisted head, basic water magic is nowhere near enough to stop him. The teacher literally said this test is about physical strength, so Neil completely refuses to back down or even dodge the attack. Louis is completely unfazed by this cocky attitude. He calmly asks if Neil wants something a little stronger. The exact second he speaks, that water violently shifts into solid ice, completely freezing around Neil's body. Neil instantly feels an unbearable bone-crushing pain. He immediately triggers his blazing fire element, desperately melting the thick ice, trapping his limbs. When he finally busts out, he looks 10 times more insane than before. A manic grin stretches across his face as he yells that fighting Lewis makes him stronger. So yeah, this battle is definitely continuing. Flashback time. Young Neil is kneeling by a river, drinking water, desperately trying to understand this weird burning pain always inside his body. Sitting alone in the pitch-black darkness, he suddenly spots a huge pack of wolves slowly approaching him. Pure fear hits him. Before he can even react, the wolves lunge and start tearing into his body. Neil frantically tries to fight back, but one wolf violently bites his arm, while another sinks its teeth deep into his leg. But even as a little kid, Neil has absolutely terrifying strength. Using pure raw power, he pries a wolf's jaws open and yanks his arm free. Pure rage explodes. The pain sparks a wild frenzy. Trust me, we are definitely seeing what happens next. Let's jump right into this crazy manhwa. He literally rips the wolves apart barehanded. That brutal night changes him forever. Standing over their bloody bodies, Neil finally realizes something huge. Pain means you are actually alive. And pure strength, that is the only way to survive. The more agony he takes, the more powerful he gets. Weakness means death in this world. That tiny kid somehow slaughters every single bloodthirsty wolf, and honestly that is exactly why Neil hunts for pain. Pain literally defines his whole existence now. Snapping back to the present, our battle maniac casually charges right at Lewis again. Rushing in, he claims they are exactly alike. To him, they are just a pair of absolute monsters hunting down the next level of power. Lewis instantly fires back with his signature martial arts technique. Channeling every ounce of focus and energy, he plants a devastating kick right into Neil's face. A flawless direct hit, but instead of dropping, Neil actually loves the agony. And yeah, that psycho reaction completely frustrates Lewis. He goes all out, throwing punch after punch and landing relentless heavy blows on Neil. Neil just keeps smiling like a madman, eating every single strike. Meanwhile, Faye and Kane are watching this absolute chaos, completely lost. Now pay attention, because at this rate, Lewis might actually kill him. The terrifying part, Neil is getting wilder and infinitely more dangerous by the second. Seeing this fight spiral into total madness, those two finally decide to step in. They have to stop Lewis before someone actually dies, but Neil refuses to quit, screaming at the top of his lungs that it is not over. He lunges wildly at Lewis again, but Lewis easily dodges it. Internally, Lewis is sweating. How do you stop an absolute masochist maniac without completely breaking all of the Academy rules? He thinks maybe turning Neil into a giant ice cube might finally hold him down. Lewis tells the psycho to chill before blasting a punch into his gut. Right after boom, he triggers Ice Tempest and freezes Neil against the wall. But nope, Neil simply unleashes his fire aura and melts right out of the trap. Watching this whole disaster, the teacher actually starts looking excited. To him, this crazy Academy fight is finally starting to get good. Neil hits the floor hard but still refuses to give up. He shouts that this weak damage will not satisfy him, begging Lewis to attack with everything, but then a total wild card gets thrown into the mix. I know what you are thinking, round 3. No. An insane force suddenly slams Neil straight into the dirt. Before Neil can even process the pain, he looks up and sees Kylie glaring. Looking down at the newly unconscious Neil, she coldly states he crossed the line. Honestly, she just sees him as a muscle-headed moron with zero self-control. The teacher practically jumps out of his skin seeing Kylie. It is hilarious because he clearly has a massive crush on her. The guy literally glows with pure joy since he has not seen her in ages. In his head, she somehow looks even more gorgeous, and that insanely powerful aura radiating off her completely hypnotizes him. But Kylie brutally shuts down his little fantasy and drags him back to reality. She sharply asks what his master plan was if a freshman actually died on day 1. She tells him to remember the principal's strict warning. Getting caught like a scolded kid, the teacher immediately scrambles to defend himself. He swears he is not just some irresponsible rich jerk claiming he was just trying to push the students to their limits through combat. Kylie completely roasts him, saying he better hope he is just being an idiot. She was directly ordered to guard Lewis, and he better realize what that means. Then she drops the bomb. The principal wants him in the office after class. The teacher groans, knowing another giant lecture is coming his way. Still glancing back at these crazy freshmen, he is absolutely stunned by their raw potential. Those three, Lewis, Faye, and Kane, are on a completely different level from everyone else. He yells at Neil to get dressed, warning the maniac that he will let his insane behavior slide just this once. But if Neil goes rage mode again, his precious Academy credits are getting slashed. Neil tunes out the threat, completely, totally obsessed with his own wild thoughts right now. He is hyped because he actually survived heavy hits from a master-level fighter. But classic comedy timing, he suddenly realizes replacing his shredded clothes after every single fight is going to make him completely broke. So he figures hunting monsters for cash is his only option left. Right on cue, the class bell rings and the exhausted students are dismissed. The teacher tells the seniors to scram, ordering the battered freshmen to rest up and chug potions. So what do we take from this? He promises to push these freshmen even harder from now on. Stick with me, they'd better prep themselves and not cry later. After class, Kane drops some crazy lore. In the Academy's entire 100-year history, freshmen beating seniors is basically completely unheard of. Louis pauses, thinking hard, because honestly, he definitely didn't see anything like that written in the official Academy records. Kane explains it's only happened 3 times ever. And get this, each time those freshman classes ended up producing multiple legendary grandmasters. Louis instantly asks when this last insane case actually happened. Kane grins. The most recent time, back when their own dads were attending this exact academy. Turns out their fathers also utterly crushed the upperclassmen as absolute rookies. Meanwhile, those humiliated, bloodied seniors are doing the miserable walk of shame back. One guy actually apologizes to Jess for being far too weak, but he straight up admits it. Louis and Neil are just completely overpowered. He whispers a dirty idea, take them out from the shadows instead. Jess instantly shuts that garbage down. Now watch this guy closely. Jess wants to crush them openly, proving he's the absolute strongest, claiming his rightful throne at the top. He tells his buddy to chill out. There'll be way more chances for sweet payback later on. To Jess, it doesn't matter how overpowered Louis and Neil get. At the end of the day, they're just common Empire citizens. Nobles pull the real strings here. Later on, Faye pulls Miliana aside, asking for her honest thoughts on Louis and his insane magic. She points out his water magic talent is completely off the charts. Faye hints that if Miliana sticks close to Louis and trains with him, she might score a major power-up too. Miliana quietly remembers Louis's overwhelming magic. Deep down, she feels completely hopeless. Replicating that god-tier power seems literally impossible for her to do. Even training right beside him, her own water skills feel like absolute trash. Before Louis showed up, nobody was using water magic in such bizarre, crazy, overpowered ways. Because of this reality check, Miliana desperately needs to invent water attacks that actually fit her own skill level. Faye looks concerned. Is she really grinding this insanely hard at just 16 years old? Miliana softly replies that she absolutely has to do it for her family's sake, just to make them proud. Honestly, Faye already knew deep down that this was exactly the answer her friend would give. Hearing this, Faye waves Louis over, announcing loudly that Miliana really needs to talk to him. The second she drops that line, every single student nearby stares at Miliana. Cue the extreme social panic mode. You and I both know the trope, right? The crowd thinks it's a public love confession, but that's not her plan at all. Louis casually walks right over to them. Faye jumps in, explaining that since his water magic is so broken, could he maybe teach some tricks to Miliana? Without missing a single beat, Louis agrees. He's just a naturally good guy. He says they're friends, so of course he'll help. But the second Miliana hears that friends label, she visibly freezes up. Even Louis catches her weird reaction and looks totally confused. That's when Miliana drops a heavy warning. One day she might bring serious trouble into his life, and she really hopes he won't regret becoming friends with her. Louis looks right at her. He'll never regret this, because he never regrets the people he genuinely cares about. Period. Hearing those sincere words just wrecks her emotionally. She panics, blurting out that she won't drag him into her messy life problems before literally running away in tears. Everyone just watches her sprint away, totally confused. Faye instantly sprints after her, shouting a quick apology to Louis. She promises she'll talk to Miliana for a bit and make sure the poor girl is actually all right. Watching them vanish, Louis realizes something deep. Everyone around him is carrying their own hidden burdens and struggles. He gets it. Honestly, knowing his luck, he figures he's probably the one who'll end up dragging Miliana into absolute chaos instead. He pivots to Kane, asking if the guy knows anything about her hidden past. Kane spills the lore. Miliana is Roy's family blood granddaughter to a literal grandmaster. While Grandma was alive, their noble family had massive power and total respect, but after her grandmaster grandma passed away, the family slowly bled out all their status. Beyond that tragedy, Kane admits he's totally clueless about what went down next. He figures Faye probably has way more intel on the whole messy situation. So what do you and I take from this? Kara reveals the Royce family ended up clashing hard with the terrifying Arcanist Association. Hearing that dangerous name immediately catches Louis's full attention. Let's dive right back into the Academy drama. He asks if Miliana's trouble links to the Arcanists, hoping Kara knows more. No luck. Kara shakes her head, she's totally clueless. Louis realizes if he wants the real truth, he's got to press Faye or Miliana directly later. Next day hits. The freshmen crowd into the Academy's main magic training field. Up front, the professor declares magic is a direct blessing from the goddess, the literal essence of their world. Today's menu, perfect mana control. Plus, he's teaching them how to use martial arcane techniques in actual head-to-head combat. He introduces himself as Mr. Sid. Kane notices Louis looking totally annoyed and asks what's up. After all, wasn't Louis super hyped for magic class just earlier? Louis mutters that he's still eager, but he's already getting major red flags. He swears the professor absolutely hates him. Cue the jump scare. Mr. Sid instantly teleports right into Louis's personal space. He coldly snaps that students need to shut up while teachers are talking. He blatantly says he despises rude idiots in his class. Boom, zero hesitation, he docks one entire credit from Louis's account. Sid keeps roasting him, comparing him to absolute muscle-brained meatheads. According to him, students better follow the academy rules to the letter. Keep breaking the rules, and Louis will eventually hit absolute zero on his credits. Seconds later, Sid docks another credit. He accuses Louis of being super disrespectful even though our boy didn't even say a single bad word. Totally unfair, right? But Louis stays quiet. He already knows this guy is targeting him on purpose. Walking off, Sid tells Louis to study proper noble culture if he ever wants to act like a respectable student. Now watch this closely. Sid raises a finger and bam, a gigantic sand knight erupts from the ground using magic art. Kane and Louis just stare at this massive construct, totally amazed. Sid explains that real combat using martial arcane means mastering both physical fighting and raw magic. Want to be a true apprentice? First step, you gotta manifest your mana into the physical shape of a weapon. Master that and you can eventually coat your whole body in arcane armor. He proves it right then and there, forming a glowing mana sword in his right hand. Lock down those basics, he says, and you finally become a true fighter. To push mana through your body, you gotta link your mind to your muscles, guide it with perfectly precise physical movements. Showing off, Sid flips the blade in his grip and aggressively slashes toward the massive sand knight. Clean cut, it slices the thing totally in half, leaving everyone stunned by the sheer destructive power. Afterward, he announces they'll all be attacking stone statues the exact same way later on. Whoever deals the highest amount of damage, they bag an easy 5 extra credits. But first, proper magic attack lessons. Sid barks an order, everyone split into groups based on your specific elemental attributes. Neil has those overpowered dual attributes, so he skips the group stuff. Meanwhile, water users get pushed aside. They're told to practice armor and just help with basic warm-ups instead. The whole class starts splitting into their zones. Kane, Miliana, Faye, and Louis hit their spots. Instantly, some jerks from other groups start openly mocking Miliana. You know this trope. They laugh, calling water users nothing but famous human punching bags. Miliana looks so embarrassed. Once again, she's shoved into a corner just playing the useless support role. While everyone else gets to smash statues, the pure frustration boiling inside her just keeps getting worse. At this pathetic rate, she feels like hitting Grandmaster tier is literally an impossible dream. Stressed out, she mutters about needing to prove her strength to a certain someone. Hearing this, Louis gets curious. Who's she talking about? He highly suspects it's tied directly to that shady Arcanist association. Louis straight up asks what's bothering her, but Miliana panics, getting defensive. She insists it's nothing big and definitely none of his business. While getting ready for his turn, Louis can't stop thinking about her situation. Why the obsession with pure attack power? To him, water naturally has way better support buffs than most other elements. Buffing allies and messing with enemies, that's super important in actual battles. So what do we take from this? She strictly wants Grandmaster status to completely restore her family's lost reputation. To reach that crazy dream, she knows she absolutely has to master both attacking and defending. She swears the goddess wouldn't just make a weak, useless attribute. Stick with me, we're about to find out she's totally right. For years, she pushed her Aqua Blade to the limit using magic potions, trying to create all these insane multi-hit combos. But despite busting her back, water magic just doesn't have that raw, destructive punch. Secretly, she's terrified that maybe water users are just doomed to never reach Grandmaster tier. Right then, some random guy from class walks up claiming he's up next and needs her to use Aqua support so he can warm up. Miliana throws up a water shield for his practice, but the endless hits are draining her. You can tell the physical strain is totally wiping her out. Watching this makes Louis think hard about water magic and Grandmasters. Seeing her struggle honestly brings back painful memories of his past life. Back in his old world, everyone relentlessly trashed him for his disability. They mocked him for studying martial arts when he could barely even walk and had absolutely terrible asthma. Bullies called him pathetic for chasing impossible goals. They even stole his hard work, telling him to quit romanticizing his own failure. Some jerks literally just told him to give up and die. Looking at Miliana, Louis sees someone who completely gets her own flaws, yet absolutely refuses to quit. Just like Kane, she keeps pushing forward, ignoring all the haters. So Louis decides he's going to show her a totally new way to use water magic. He suddenly steps up and blasts out a massive ice shield. The raw impact instantly launches that annoying guy flying right backward. Louis turns to Miliana and tells her he actually believes in water magic's true potential. Now watch closely because you and I are about to see something wild. Miliana's face turns totally red from him standing so close nervously, asking if he's actually serious. Louis casually calls out to Mr. Sid asking if he can try attacking one of the statues. Already super annoyed by Louis just breathing, Mr. Sid warns him that failing will cost him even more academy credits. He sarcastically asks why Louis would waste rare ice magic on solid armor, telling him to go practice basic mana control instead. Lewis just smiles and says he actually found a vastly superior way to boost water offense. The second he says that, the entire training ground completely erupts into laughter. The whole idea sounds completely insane. Even Miliana panics, explaining those statues are special magical artifacts built from rare materials and reinforced with earth magic. Basic water spells can't even scratch the paint. She's terrified he's going to lose all his points. But Lewis just calms her down, promising everything is fine because he's got a plan. He casually strolls up to the giant knight statue and scoops up some sand. Looking at his hand, he recalls an old saying from his past life: softness eventually crushes hardness. Wait, you and I both know what he's making, right? High-pressure water plus sand equals a literal water jet cutter that shreds absolutely anything. With that genius logic, Lewis instantly puts his plan into motion. 1 second later, that massive knight is diced into tiny little cubes. Mr. Sid just stares at his ruined precious statue in absolute shock. Meanwhile, Lewis just stares right back at him, casually dropping that this is true water magic. Later that night, Kane, Kara, and Lewis are heading to the dorms, with Kane just completely hyping up today's class. He tells Lewis he would have paid real money to see Mr. Sid's face when those massive credits rolled in. According to Kane, it was pure cinematic gold. Mr. Sid looked so pathetic, like he was trapped inside a waking nightmare. Seeing Lewis casually unleash a perfectly clean, devastating water strike, the dude's face turned completely white, like he just swallowed spoiled bread. After that humiliation, he basically sprinted out the second the bell finally rang. Lewis just laughs it off, saying he was too busy geeking out over his own water experiments to even care, because that guy's ugly expression wasn't worth his time. Kane steers things back to water magic, saying they really need to take Faye's suggestion seriously. And trust me, we're definitely going to want to see where her hard work leads. She is literally blowing cash on crazy expensive mental recovery potions just to keep training. Now stick with me here. He finds out she is renting private training rooms just to practice completely solo. Kane points out that teaming up with her could actually be a massive win for Louis. Kara suddenly jumps into the chat, dropping the actual math. Renting a training room runs about 30 silver coins, but those mental recovery potions, almost 300 gold coins. Hearing those insane numbers absolutely floors Louis. The prices are way higher than he ever imagined. Thinking it over, he turns to Kara. He actually asks her for a quick favor regarding that massive training mission they are supposed to tackle in just a few days. The three of them keep strategizing about the upcoming mission while heading straight back to the student dorms. The very next day, their teacher rallies the whole class outside on the main academy training grounds. He hits them with a classic speech bragging about how their bodies are getting stronger and way more refined every single day. Watching their growth apparently makes him super proud. Because of that, he drops the big news. They are officially ready to start the academy's real training missions. According to him, taking on these missions is just part of their duty as students. Plus, they are considered massive opportunities to level up their skills. He explains that Candria Aranist Academy connects directly to the Mondo Great Forest, right on the western frontier. Long ago, that forest was ruled by absolute nightmare monsters. But over time, it became a natural border dividing several major nations. Now pay attention here, because even today, countless beasts live there. The deeper you go toward the center, the more insanely powerful the monsters get. In comparison, the creatures hanging around the outer edges are practically weaklings. The academy itself was actually built to help defend the entire empire against any threats crawling out of that forest. That is exactly why students get sent on these regular missions, hunt down those weaker monsters on the outskirts. The teacher explains the loot system. Every magic crystal they rip from defeated monsters can be traded for academy credits or sweet rewards back at base. On top of that, whoever hauls back the biggest pile of magic crystals gets a massive bonus reward. But he quickly warns them acting reckless comes with a heavy price. If a student challenges an overpowered monster and needs a teacher to rescue them, boom, they instantly lose 1 credit as punishment. With the rules laid out, the teacher dismisses everyone to gear up for departure. Neil looks absolutely hyped hearing all this. In his mind, this is his golden ticket to finally cut loose and go crazy in actual combat. Meanwhile, Faye turns to Louis, asking if he seriously plans to use life or death combat to train Miliana. Louis just calmly answers back. Real battles expose a person's true potential, way better than some safe, controlled practice ever could. Because of that pure logic, they agree to squad up and form a 5-person team. They figure combining their raw strength and teamwork is way more effective than burning a literal fortune on those overpriced training rooms. Faye then looks right at Miliana, asking how she feels about this whole crazy plan. To everyone's shock, Miliana is actually super hyped to join their squad. Right on cue, the teacher claps his hands. He announces that every 5-person freshman group will tackle this first mission alongside some senior students. I know what you are thinking sounds great, right? The teacher claims this lets freshmen learn from the veterans while staying perfectly safe on their first run. But barely a second after that announcement, Louis catches Jess, glaring at him from nearby. Jess struts over, coldly mocking the fact that they somehow crossed paths again during these mission prep stages. He leans in, reminding Louis that the forest is extremely dangerous. With a sarcastic smirk, he tells him to try not to die out there. Unbothered, Louis calmly replies that people only achieve true strength after surviving deadly situations. Jess just clicks his tongue in annoyance. He storms off, muttering that Louis is nothing but an arrogant fool. Once he is far enough away, Jess quietly whispers an order to his buddy. If a battle breaks out in that forest, none of the seniors are allowed to help those freshmen at all. At the same time, Kane whispers a warning to Louis. The teachers mostly watch from afar, rarely stepping in unless things go totally sideways. However, he highly suspects some seniors are hiding completely shady motives. They might actually lure the freshmen deeper into the woods, dragging them straight toward high-level monsters, just to watch them suffer. So what do you and I make of this? Louis just smiles. Stronger monsters mean richer crystals, tons of cash, and way more credits. Soon after that, every student group starts marching directly into the forest together. Alright, you and I are heading into the danger zone. As they travel deeper, Louis asks Kane if any legendary ancient monsters might still be hiding out in this forest. Kane shuts that down. He explains that local saints wiped out most of those dangerous behemoths ages ago, so the outer areas should be totally clear. At most, they might stumble across a few fighter-tier monsters if they get lucky. Meanwhile, the senior assigned to supervise their squad overhears this conversation and secretly laughs at their arrogance. To him, fighter-tier monsters usually require a full squad of trained fighters working together. So the idea that a bunch of rookie apprentices think they can casually handle one pure comedic delusion, but then a massive monster suddenly spawns right in front of them. Even the cocky senior freezes in pure shock, because standing right there is a terrifying fighter-tier grand bear. But instead of actually doing his job, the senior straight up bails. He jumps into a tree to hide. He chuckles to himself, thinking this timing is absolutely perfect. A beast this strong will easily crush these overconfident freshmen. Tucked safely in the branches, he decides to just kick back and enjoy watching the absolute chaos unfold below. Louis instantly gets annoyed the second he realizes what is going on. Up in the tree, the senior gloats about how insanely dangerous a grand bear is, boasting its bottomless stamina and absolute tank-level defenses. Now watch closely. He is absolutely convinced these kids are walking right into a completely unwinnable massacre. Unbothered, Louis immediately barks an order for his entire squad to get into combat formation. The bear unleashes an ear-shattering roar, and all 5 students draw their weapons, launching a coordinated strike. Faye lunges in first with her spear, while Kane flanks from behind using his brand-new martial arts technique. But the second his hit connects, Kane realizes this monster feels exactly like punching a solid brick wall. The bear violently swings back, and Kane barely blocks the massive counterattack. Immediately, Faye charges back in alongside Kara's angled strike. Louis smiles, looking totally satisfied. He loves seeing his team actually syncing up and working together in a real battle. But the constant attacks soon draw the Grand Bear's furious attention right toward Louis and Miliana. Miliana immediately fires off her water magic to lock down the angry beast's movements. Then, blending fluid water control with pure martial arts, she actually tosses this giant monster through the air like a literal bowling ball. Louis stares in genuine surprise because he has never seen that crazy technique before. Faye chimes in, explaining that Miliana actually invented this original technique herself by mixing water magic directly with jujitsu throws. Hearing that makes Louis incredibly proud. Seeing her develop such a unique custom fighting style genuinely impresses him. Refusing to be outshined by Miliana, Louis dashes straight toward the bear to show off a little of his own power. Bam! He lands a devastating kick right into the beast's chest, launching the massive creature flying backward across the dirt. Immediately after, he forms a compressed water sphere and blasts it directly at the massive bear. The water bomb violently explodes on impact, right before the giant monster crashes down hard. I know what you are thinking, and yeah, Miliana is completely shocked too. Even students with stronger elements could barely scratch this thing. Yet Louis severely injures it using nothing but water magic. Louis calmly explains that everything just comes down to basic scientific principles. When water is superheated, hypercompressed, and detonated, it triggers a steam explosion powerful enough to literally roast targets from the inside out. So even if an enemy has unbreakable armor on the outside, internal damage is basically impossible to defend against. Miliana listens to every single word, taking notes like he is dropping the ultimate life lesson. Deep down, she starts wondering how she can apply that exact logic to her own techniques. Then Louis completely surprises her, tossing over a special Candace Trading Company magic ring he requested earlier through Kara. With this ring, Miliana can temporarily use earth, fire, and wind magic. She uses this alongside her natural water attribute just like Louis does himself. Louis admits he got the idea after noticing Mr. Sid wearing flashy rings during class. Seeing that totally inspired him to experiment with combining multiple magical attributes the same way. Because of that, he specifically arranged for a custom ring just for Miliana. Receiving such a thoughtful gift makes her absolutely beam with genuine joy. But the exact second she slips the ring on, a massive fireball suddenly blasts straight toward her. Lewis immediately screams, a frantic warning for her safety. She dodges the deadly blast at the absolute last second. Trust me, you and I need to see who just threw that. Stick with me here. Even after surviving, she just stares in pure shock, terrified by the insane power behind that blast. Instantly, everyone snaps their head toward where it came from. Hiding up in the trees, the senior watching them is absolutely losing his mind. A massive fighter-class Grand Bear just completely vanishes under that overwhelming force. Poof, like its body never even existed at all. Right then, Louis and the rest of his squad suddenly feel it. Something massive is tearing through the forest straight toward them. The giant trees all around them start shaking violently. Just pure heavy pressure from whatever beast is stomping its way through. Seconds later, these enormous monsters step out from the shadows. Blaze Kongs. Absolute monstrous apes radiating fire with pure unhinged madness hardwired right into their nature. Kane instantly mutters that this is really, really bad. Louis quickly turns and asks him what the heck a Blaze Kong even is. Kane quietly whispers that these things should never, ever be near the academy grounds. Seeing just one Blaze Kong out here would be a massive red flag. So an entire pack showing up together, that is flat out impossible to believe. Right in front of everyone, the pack of Blaze Kongs starts savagely tearing into the corpse of that dead Grand Bear. The gruesome sight makes Miliana gag, and honestly the rest of the students are barely holding their lunch down either. Then it hits them. The other student squads deeper in the woods are probably walking right into a death trap too, and they are totally right. Every single group runs into these Blaze Kongs, and 0 students are even slightly prepared for this level of danger. Panic spreads like wildfire. They need to find a teacher right now. Meanwhile, the supervising teachers are completely clueless, wondering why casualties are suddenly dropping left and right. Now watch this closely. While everyone else is panicking, there is still one absolute madman standing right in the middle of this total chaos. He steps right up to a massive Blaze Kong without an ounce of fear. Yep, it is Neil. Just laughing like a maniac, he stares the monster down and actually asks if it wants to go. Not a drop of sweat, just pure hype on his face as he cracks his knuckles. Everywhere else though, students are screaming and sprinting for their lives. Louis actually uses his brain. He figures out that if impossible monsters are crashing the academy grounds, somebody really dangerous has to be pulling the strings behind the scenes. Back up in the trees, the hiding senior gets a terrifying reality check. One of those Blaze Kongs is staring right at him. Absolutely panicking, he throws up some soil armor for defense, but he is still shaking uncontrollably. Boom! Before he even blinks, the beast hits him with one devastating punch, packing enough raw power to basically shatter his bones. But right before the monster stomps him out of existence, Louis crashes the party. I know you felt that. He kicks the beast right in the jaw, sending it flying. No time to flex. Louis yells at Kara and Miliana to grab the broken senior and bolt immediately. They listen instantly. But even as they drag him away, they are begging Louis to run with them. Louis just brushes it off, saying he will catch up soon. Meanwhile, that Blaze Kong he just humiliated, oh yeah, it is absolutely losing its mind now. Blinded by rage, the giant ape opens its jaws and blasts a massive fireball straight at the squad. Louis screams for everyone to hit the deck and dodge right now. The heat is totally overwhelming. Miliana and Kara barely manage to survive the explosive blast in one piece. Faye connects the dots fast. These apes are not just rampaging blindly, they are actively hunting them down. Kane realizes the hard truth. Running is over. They have to fight together if they want to live. Boosting his speed with wind magic, Kane becomes a blur. He rushes the giant beast and unleashes a nasty slash with his dagger. It only leaves a shallow cut, sure, but hey, damage is damage. He actually drew blood. Right on cue, Faye charges in. She pierces the creature's arm with her spear, hits it again, and literally forces this massive beast down toward the dirt. Kane is just starstruck by her raw physical power. Not stopping, Faye activates her sacred spear technique and drops a heavy crescent fall attack. The strike whips up a literal tornado, drilling straight for the monster's heart. Just for a split second it looks like a clean kill, but suddenly its eyes snap open. Faye realizes, in absolute horror, that the beast just reinforced its body using crystal magic. Not backing down, she thrusts her sacred spear one last time, punching straight through its chest and setting off a massive explosion. Standing over the smoking body, she takes a tiny breath of pride. They actually took it down. And here is where we leave off. Kane screams at her to move. She turns around, only to see the monster standing right over her. Trust me, you need to see what happens next. Stick with me here. The creature opens its jaws, blasting another lethal fire stream at her. But at the very last second, Louis dives right in front, throwing up an ice shield to save them both. Boom, he instantly spawns these massive ice lances straight from the dirt, locking the Blaze Kong in layers of solid frost. Finally, after all that absolute chaos, the squad actually gets a brief second to catch their breath. Faye stammers out a thank you, completely stunned. How is this ape still alive after getting stabbed right through the heart? Louis doesn't even hear her though. His eyes are dead locked onto the beast itself. He spots it immediately. This psycho monster is gearing up for another fire breath. No hesitation, he yanks Faye back right as the Blaze Kong violently shatters through its frozen prison like it is nothing. And here is the terrifying part, the wounds Kane and Faye gave it, healing back almost instantly. Everyone just stares completely horrified. Sure, Blaze Kongs are supposed to be hyper-aggressive, but nobody ever said anything about insane zombie-level regeneration. Watching this thing heal up, it hits Lewis like a truck. This behavior seriously reminds him of Neil. Exactly like Neil, taking damage and fighting just makes this monster level up its own strength. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, their teacher is juggling multiple Blaze Kongs and slowly losing his mind. He chops them up and boom, they just heal right back, getting beefier every single time. It clicks instantly. Something is seriously totally wrong with these apes. At this pace, every single student scattered in this forest is going to get totally wiped out. Back at the main fight, Lewis realizes they are screwed. More and more Blaze Kongs are creeping in, trapping his crew from all sides. Miliana and Kara are fighting for their lives over there, but they end up taking painful hits anyway. Nearby, that injured senior finally wakes up, but he isn't panicking. A creepy grin stretches across his face because, yep, this is all going exactly to plan. His mission is totally done. Now he just gets to sit back and watch these defective monsters slaughter Lewis and the commoners. Now pay close attention here, this entire deadly ambush, it was this senior's twisted setup from day one. Meanwhile, right in Lewis's face, the Blaze Kongs are going completely berserk, basically losing their minds. Kane watches in disbelief. These giant monkeys are literally using martial arcane armor just like human pros. They charge again, and as Lewis frantically parries, a horrifying realization hits him out of nowhere. Every single Blaze Kong is targeting him, completely ignoring the rest. Out of nowhere, one ape conjures a fireball the size of a mini sun, pointing it right at Lewis. And the crazy part, all the other apes around him charge up their own giant fireballs too. Faye and Kane sprint toward Lewis, desperately throwing themselves in to shield him from the incoming blast. Then in a split second, boom, a colossal explosion rips through the forest, hitting with the absolute force of a nuclear blast. Watching the mushroom cloud from afar, that senior smirks. He is totally convinced his assassination mission is a huge success. But you and I know Lewis does not die easily. Dead center of that apocalyptic explosion, these blinding blue rays of light suddenly pierce right through the raging fire. Even the mindless apes freeze up totally confused, just staring at this bizarre glow cutting through the smoke. A second later, a massive, violent tornado spawns, completely swallowing up the entire sea of flames. Faye and Kane instantly recognize that signature blue energy. They realize right then, Lewis actually survived the most devastating attack ever dropped on freshman students. And he didn't just barely survive it. He walks out of the smoke looking way more terrifying than before. Faye points out, literally shaking in disbelief, that dominating mana across such a vast area with just raw willpower is something only true masters or higher-level individuals should ever be capable of doing. Kane finally puts it together. Lewis has been completely hiding his real, insane strength this entire time. But inside, Lewis is actually feeling his entire body breaking down. By supercharging his internal mana flow, he is literally forcing his physical body to mimic a master's aura temporarily anyway. The backlash is insane though. Pain is shredding his muscles, and he knows he will hit his absolute limit very soon. Because of this heavy toll, he knows he needs to wrap this battle up right now. Trust me, you will love this part. He activates his breathing technique and ice abilities, and immediately summons a massive tsunami of water around himself. Let's jump right in. You and I are about to watch these massive waves completely swallow the panicked Blaze Kongs. But blink and boom, that water instantly turns into thousands of razor-sharp icicles. Louis takes a single step. On this frozen turf, his speed suddenly spikes to absolute nightmare levels. He blasts toward one ape, landing a hit so insanely hard it launches the beast completely airborne. Another one strikes, but Louis casually blocks using his Axiom speed boost. Then he drops a brutal counterattack on two apes at once. He is moving so ridiculously fast now, these monsters literally cannot even track him anymore. 1 second he is right beside them. The next gone, popping up to strike from nowhere. But Louis is not just spamming random attacks here. While zipping around, he secretly carves out a massive 8-trigram magic formation right under their feet. Boom. Every single Blaze Kong is locked perfectly onto a formation point. Using ice magic, he freezes all of them simultaneously. He launches into the sky, dropping an endless barrage of heavy palm strikes that hammers those trapped monsters deep into the ice. The frost perfectly seals them in. You and I both know escaping is basically impossible now. With the frozen prison complete, Louis touches down and just coldly stares at his masterpiece. Suddenly, giant cracks spread across the massive frozen prison. Bam! The whole thing explodes into dust. Every single trapped beast literally shatters into millions of tiny pieces like a broken toy. Spying from the shadows, that hidden senior is absolutely fuming. He realizes his plan is ruined. Once again, Louis beats the impossible and comes out alive. Meanwhile, Kane and Faye are just standing there, jaws dropped. Louis literally deleted a whole monster pack in seconds. As the dust settles, Louis notices something weird. His wind and water magic feels way smoother, flowing supernaturally now. It is basically like leveling up his own mana control mid-fight. Landing back down, Kane hypes him up, completely mind-blown that ice magic could ever pack such a terrifying, overpowered punch. But Faye cuts them off. She tells them to stop fanboying because they need to run right now before another ambush hits. Louis totally agrees. It is the perfect time to dip, especially since the academy staff finally decided to show up and help. Nearby, that shady senior spots the teachers finally rolling in. He knows continuing his evil plan is impossible now. Can you believe this guy? He punches his own chest, playing dead on the ground to fake being a helpless victim. Right after the principal himself lands on scene, he barks orders at the teachers to protect students and wipe out the beasts. Everyone is completely shook. The big boss actually showed up to the front lines. He walks straight over to Louis and his crew, checking if they managed to stay safe. Kane instantly speaks up, saying they only survived because Louis carried. Faye chimes in, saying Louis soloed multiple masterclass Kongs. She flat out admits they would be totally dead without his insane carry. Even the principal looks absolutely shocked hearing this. Soloing beasts at that high tier, that is a legendary flex. But Louis stays serious, telling him this whole monster attack feels super sketchy. He hands over a chunk of frozen monster flesh from one of the shattered apes. Taking one look at it, the principal orders the kids back to school. He will handle this massive mess personally. Flash forward, Louis hits up the academy market and drops into a shop. The shopkeeper is hyped. After that crazy mission, he stacked up a massive mountain of points and academy credits. But she is super confused. Why is a rich guy blowing all his cash on huge stacks of mental stamina potions? She warns him that chugging these will wreck his body. Louis just calmly smirks, fully aware of the crazy risks. Suddenly, Kylie pops out of nowhere. She pulls him aside for a quick top-secret chat. She drops the autopsy results on those Blaze Kong bodies they hauled from the battlefield incident. The lab found wild stuff, traces of alchemy, weird magic drugs, and artificial body mods. We all felt that coming right. His gut feeling was spot on. Someone staged this entire monster attack. Kylie explains the principal thinks an enemy squad orchestrated everything. Apparently, rival factions are getting super antsy since His Majesty and Lady Million are both aging. Let's dive right into this crazy political mess. Since no official heir is chosen for the throne, taking out or controlling the kids of major supporters is just basic politics. The Academy is an absolute powerhouse in the Northern Empire. Whoever grabs control of it basically wins the whole game. Louis can barely wrap his head around it. All this horror just for a crown. Still, facts are facts. Those Blaze Kongs were gunning straight for him during the fight. Kylie steps up, promising to look into the whole mess herself and back him up completely. But before she takes off, she gives him one rule: get stronger. After all, the principal is expecting some massive things from him. Alone now, Louis just stares at the potion in his hand. The reality hits him hard. He really does need a serious power-up. Zero hesitation. He downs the whole thing in a single gulp, muttering that this hardcore path is exactly what he signed up for. His mind immediately drifts to his friends. The danger around them is getting way too real. Meanwhile, the senior who ordered the attack is busy reporting to his dad about those freaky monsters. The results, a massive success. Their combat stats spiked perfectly right on target. But there is a huge catch. Most monsters self-destructed, sure, but the Academy still managed to recover a few leftover corpses from the battlefield. If the principal connects the dots, these two are completely doomed. But the mastermind behind this whole shady operation stays chillingly calm. He points out that those test subjects came all the way from the Bhutan Empire. Even if the principal gets suspicious, proving it is basically impossible. Now pay attention here. The guy stares coldly at a photo of Louis, wondering who this boy actually is. His son admits he has been suspicious of Louis for a while now. That terrifying aura around Louis impossible to miss. He is totally convinced the principal is actively hiding the kid's true identity from everyone. Whatever his secret is, father and son agree on one thing. Louis is a massive roadblock for their grandmaster plan. With a deadpan look, the villain literally burns Louis's picture and tells his son to eliminate the problem. The senior calls Louis a cursed child, bringing nothing but ruin. If this kid keeps poking around their secret weapon, their entire evil empire might just crumble into dust. Hearing this, the boss gives a new order. Send all this juicy intel straight up the ladder. It needs to land right on the desks of the Arcanist Association. He knows the association will completely eat up those nasty rumors about a so-called cursed child. The second they hear this kid is chilling inside the academy, they will definitely kick off a massive, aggressive investigation. Classic villain logic: the enemy of my enemy is absolutely my new best friend. I know what you are thinking, and yes, the mastermind is Prince Vaughn himself, leader of the nobles and Brian's own father. Meanwhile, our guy Louis hits the training grounds deep into his hardcore meditation routine. eyes wide, shut, but his radar is practically pinging. He senses every single thing moving nearby. Sneak attack Kane lunges from behind trying to catch him lacking, but Louis reads him like a book and casually blocks the strike. He does not just block perfectly. He immediately flips the script, throwing brutal counterattacks right back at a struggling Kane. Right in the chaos, another massive wave of energy comes screaming straight for Louis's head. Enter Faye, the absolute wild card who literally does not know the meaning of holding back even when she is just supposed to be doing a friendly sparring session. She dives into the fight going full throttle as usual, but Louis ice cold. An actual ice shield snaps into place right in front of him, eating the strike like it is absolutely nothing. The squad watches like hawks, totally hyped up, thinking they finally cornered this overpowered freak. They figure there is no way he dodges this. But Miliana instantly realizes Louis already read their entire playbook. And yeah, she is totally on the money. Dust settles, and Louis just strolls out like a boss. Instead of flexing, he starts showering them with compliments. He hypes up Kane for getting crazy fast, telling him he has finally perfected those annoying hit-and-run tactics they have been grinding on. Next, he points out Faye's spear techniques, praising how she brilliantly mixed them with her raw, unarmed combat style. Best of all, he gives props to Miliana for literally hiding Carrara's item in the mud to bait him. The guy is just grinning, genuinely thrilled to see his entire squad leveling up this amazingly fast in such record time. So what do you and I take from this? He openly admits that without his cold senses, their combo would have completely wrecked him. Even with the praise, Kane just looks super annoyed. Let us figure this out together. In his mind, their whole squad still failed to touch Louis. He points out that Louis dodged the entire combo without a single scratch. It just proves they still absolutely cannot catch him. Meanwhile, Faye is absolutely fascinated. She cannot stop thinking about his weird ability to track movements using cold sense. She admits she has never heard of a technique remotely like this before. Louis explains that the technique relies heavily on mixing mind and mana circulation. He even admits he is actually still researching and tweaking the skill himself. Still, he promises that once she gets the core principles down, he will totally teach her how to use it during their future training sessions. While everyone is chatting, Miliana hands Louis a recovery potion. Right at that exact second, Faye tries to sneak in another punch toward him. Once again, she completely fails to land the hit. Miliana watches them and jokes that Louis feels completely abnormal, almost like someone who does not even belong in this world. I know what you are thinking, he is totally busted. Louis nearly spits out his drink in pure shock. Sweating, he quickly wipes his mouth and asks why she would say that. Miliana explains it is just because he openly shares his knowledge and rare techniques so freely with everyone else. Normally, people guard those secrets inside their own families. They would never just teach outsiders like this. Because of that, she jokes, he must have picked up those weird values from a past life entirely. Hearing that just makes Louis scratch his head super awkwardly. He laughs it off, claiming it is probably just because he grew up as a commoner. His upbringing is totally different from those stuck-up nobles. Plus, he points out their whole squad is always teaching each other new tricks anyway. So he genuinely thinks it would be totally epic if they all keep leveling up together as one united team. Eventually, Faye steps in and says it is time to head back. They still have martial arts classes waiting for them early tomorrow. Before walking away, she warns Kane and Louis not to sneak off and cause trouble. Kane immediately roasts her back. Soon enough, the whole group starts heading out, just joking around and having a good time. But Louis, he stays behind at the training grounds alone. He checks his bag and realizes he is basically out of recovery potions once again. That means another trip to the exchange counter really soon. Right as he goes to chug another bottle, Kylie pops up and completely stops him. She demands to know why he is drinking another one when he just took a mental potion yesterday. She reminds him about her previous warning, constantly chugging those weird potions is going to turn his brain to absolute mush. Hearing her lecture makes Louis think deeply about the massive weight on his shoulders. He remembers that huge promise to his mom, he absolutely has to become a grandmaster. Then he can snatch the orphanage back from the association and finally use that power to protect everyone who matters. Now, pay attention here. With literal enemies targeting him directly, he is more convinced than ever. He absolutely has to get stronger no matter what. He quietly insists he is being careful not to overdo it and will be totally fine. In his head, these potions are cheat codes letting him double his daily training endurance. Unlike the rich kids, he just does not have the luxury of taking things slow. Kylie stares at him dead serious and asks if he is actually certain about that. Right after Louis gets a burst of energy, Kylie suddenly freezes up. She senses an unusually powerful aura surging right off him. Louis looks super confused. He asks if he did something weird because all of a sudden his mana is flowing through his body way smoother than ever before. Kylie struggles to even answer. She honestly has zero clue what she is sensing right now. But right as she is about to speak, she spots a massive pile of empty potion bottles scattered nearby. Instantly, pure irritation flashes across her face. She realizes this crazy guy drank every single one himself. Lewis looks completely embarrassed while Kylie angrily yells that she checked the official exchange records. She found out this is literally his 8th time buying more potions this month. That basically means he is chugging at least 2 of these every single day. Lewis argues right back. If he genuinely wants to hit Grandmaster rank as fast as possible, this is literally his only available option, especially since his body has not shown any serious side effects so far. Kylie snaps right back. And trust me, you and I both know becoming a Grandmaster is never that simple. Alright, stick with me here. She says he needs solid basics right now, not crazy potions to force a power-up. She warns him straight up those sketchy drugs will literally turn his insides into absolute mush before he even notices. Zero hesitation. She grabs his hand, declaring they are doing a full magical aura and potion screening right this second. They need to see if his body is already failing, so she drags Louis off for a blood test. He lets them mix his blood into a special testing flask, and the headmaster personally checks it out. After staring at the results, the old man realizes something super weird is happening. There is 0 brain damage from those heavy mental recovery potions. Actually, it is the exact opposite. His brain activity is spiking way harder than a normal person. Kylie instantly calls foul. She argues that his recent behavior has been completely out of whack. She points out his random heavy zones of spacing out. Now watch closely. Just earlier, monstrous energy exploded from him, leaking a killing intent so terrifying it chilled her bones. The principal agrees her worries are definitely pretty serious. But since his magic is actually leveling up instead of breaking down, maybe this crazy phenomenon is some rare enlightenment. A breakthrough unique only to him. Then a wilder thought hits the old man. Could this actually be tied to the legendary traits of the cursed child? That single idea ramps his curiosity up to 11. He begs Louis to explain every single detail he felt. They keep talking, diving into magical awakenings and where mana actually comes from. He rambles about the goddess ruling magic, wondering if humans or monsters were ever meant to wield this insane power. After mulling it over, the headmaster figures this world is packed with crazy secrets nobody can fully wrap their heads around. So for now, he tosses this case into the unexplained mystery file. Way better than jumping to some crazy half-baked conclusion today. Kylie keeps pushing that Louis is definitely messed up inside, but the principal sternly walks away. But a few steps later, he pauses and spins right back around. He admits that modern alchemy and magical potions are practically still in beta testing. Honestly, nobody really knows how these drugs change the human body. Add his weird condition and things get messy. And yeah, you and I both know Kylie is right about secrets. Meanwhile, our guy just sits there quietly, mentally plotting his next move. He figures out that this world's alchemy literally just smashes raw materials together, hoping for the best, which obviously makes all the random chemical compounds violently clash. His genius idea: just strip away the trash components to make a perfectly pure top-tier potion instead. Then he can isolate exactly what causes the terrible side effects. Cut to tomorrow, the principal calls them back. Louis is completely hyped. The old man actually sourced a massive mountain of rare ingredients for him overnight. Kylie stares at the endless rows of glass bottles, completely baffled by what he is about to pull off. The headmaster definitely does not brew things this chaotically. Louis just grins, telling her to sit tight and watch the magic. 0 time wasted. He jumps right into the zone. After a long, intense crafting session, he isolates 3 flawless potions and calls it an absolute win. The principal's jaw practically hits the floor. Louis literally separated every single raw element from the messy original mixture. Right then and there, he realizes this kid has absolute god-tier alchemy skills. Totally freaking out, he begs Louis to become his official apprentice and study potion making for real. He swears that with this insane talent, Louis could rule the entire academic world of alchemy. He might even blast past the legendary Lady Million herself. And trust me, you and I know he definitely will. Alright, jump back in with me. Louis respectfully tells the principal that studying under him would be an absolute honor. Hearing that makes the old guy beam with pride, and they instantly start bonding over their total nerd obsession with magical research. Kylie, on the other hand, is absolutely hating this sudden bromance. Later that night, Louis is back on his solo grind, studying magic theory and overthinking the actual mechanics of his crazy potions. He suddenly realizes that the magical energy inside his brews comes straight from the raw ingredients. Since potions use natural plants and plants literally just need dirt and water to grow, his galaxy brain starts connecting the dots. To him, earth and water are the ultimate symbols of life. Boom, an epic realization hits him like a truck. And right on cue, a massive magical reaction completely explodes across his table. Kylie just stares in pure shock. She cannot believe this ridiculous nonsense is happening again. Somehow, Louis hits another massive breakthrough deep in his soul. Instantly, giant vines and thick roots start exploding all over the room. You are going to want to see this. The principal watches completely mind-blown as literal forests erupt across the room. In his mind, there is absolutely zero chance that simple potion magic could ever create something this insane. But Lewis just chills and explains that true creation magic isn't actually about giant explosions or flashy destruction. Instead, it's literally just watering the dirt, feeding life, and letting fresh sprouts pop up completely naturally into the world. Thanks to that breakthrough, Lewis officially names his brand new power the wood element. Kylie looks so lost right now. She has never heard of a wood element before. Lewis just smirks, holds up one finger, and makes a gorgeous flower bloom right in her face. But when Kylie peeks at it, the flower suddenly spits out a cloud of dangerous attack pollen. She completely misses the dodge, and an angry red rash instantly spreads all over her hand. Right after that, the normal vines mutate into literal monsters and lunge at her, absolutely furious. Kylie blasts her fire element and completely roasts the attacking weeds. Even though she gets a few annoying scratches fighting them off, Kylie suddenly realizes a super terrifying fact. Lewis isn't just making pretty flowers, he can literally weaponize his new plant life to fight people. Plus, his level-up speed is completely broken. But Lewis just brushes it off, claiming that summoning plants isn't even the real flex of the wood element. He drops a bombshell. The true god-tier strength of this element is actually insane healing magic. Hearing that makes the principal freeze with a huge realization. If Lewis is actually right, then every single recovery potion and healing balm might secretly be powered by the wood attribute this whole time. Lewis nods, saying the odds of that are incredibly high. He explains the only real difference between normal weeds and magic potions is just whether they have elemental properties packed inside. Let that sink in for a second. The principal gets insanely hyped, realizing potions, alchemy, and elements might all be perfectly linked. Mind completely blown, he immediately promises to sponsor Lewis with literally every potion ingredient he ever needs for his future experiments. Lewis sincerely thanks him for the huge support. But the principal just laughs out loud, waving off the thanks. Because if Lewis keeps dropping major discoveries like this, the old man will be the one handling all the exhausting paperwork anyway. But before they wrap things up, the principal gets serious and asks one last question. He warns him that in human society, raw fighting strength is really only half the battle. If you actually want enough power to alter fate, you have to dig into much more complicated truths than just throwing big punches. Right after the principal drags Lewis out into the woods. Out there, Lewis fires up his brand new wood element, making vibrant life completely erupt right out of the dirt. Once again, the principal is left absolutely speechless. No matter how many times he sees it happen, growing such insanely valuable plants this fast and effortlessly still feels completely unnatural to a veteran. Lewis isn't just spamming random magic plants out of thin air, he's literally farming edible high-tier resources in the blink of an eye. But Lewis admits, this crazy skill drains way more magic power than he originally thought. He explains that the higher the tier of the plant, the more massive the mana cost is to actually grow it. And that's where we leave it. Thanks to the mana drain, he admits this wild flex is his absolute limit for now. Alright, let's jump right back in. The principal is absolutely thrilled, reflecting that everything in this world has a price. For him, the only real difference is how that exact cost measures up against everyone else. And with Louis, that cost is way lower than anyone with a brain would ever expect. The principal admits that Louis purifying potions, cutting down side effects, and inventing totally new formulas with wood magic is just mind-blowing. He points out that nobody else could pull this off. It takes a total freak of nature with Louis's specific skill set to succeed. Soon after that, they casually leave the forest. Turns out they built a massive secret lab right under the Candria Arcanist Academy, hidden deep inside a cave. Down in this super secret bunker, they cook up crazy strong recovery and mana potions. They even brew body-buffing elixirs and mental healing drafts for their totally legal ongoing experiments. Grabbing one of the freshly brewed bottles, the principal decides it is finally time to test these side effects out on themselves. He casually mentions that if Louis actually wants to level up fast, throwing hands with strong opponents is the ultimate training method. So logically, he suggests they test out the wild potion effects through combat. Louis immediately lights up at the idea, seeing this as a golden opportunity. Now watch closely, things are about to get wild. He chugs the potion, tells the principal to go all out, and prepares to brawl. Absolute chaos erupts as they clash, while Kylie just stands off to the side, watching with her jaw totally dropped. She quietly realizes that Louis is literally a complete monster in his own right. Sure, the guy isn't plotting to destroy the world, but his raw talent and insane growth speed are basically terrifying at this point. Much later, Louis hits the showers in his room, replaying that insane sparring session in his head. It hits him that the principal didn't pull a single punch during that entire crazy fight. Honestly, if he hadn't brewed those god-tier potions in advance, he would probably be stuck in a bed for a month straight. Chilling out, he starts brainstorming his next crazy potion recipe and plotting exactly how to boost his overall power level even further. But when Louis finally walks out, Kara is just sitting there, staring suspiciously at an empty potion bottle. Louis immediately freezes up, totally sweating bullets at the ambush. Kara casually turns and asks what this sketchy bottle is. Panicking Louis drops a terrible lie claiming the principal handed it over for safety during some highly classified school-approved potion research project. Obviously, Kara isn't buying that garbage excuse for a second. He walks right up into Louis's personal space. Louis is practically hyperventilating, completely convinced his secret is officially busted. Boom! Kara drops the hammer, accusing Louis of brewing the potion himself. Louis scrambles, desperately denying everything like a total amateur caught red-handed. We all saw this coming, right? No matter what he says, the guy is just an absolutely terrible liar. He eventually sighs, completely gives up, and asks how Kara managed to figure out his huge secret. Kara smirks, explaining he just studies the principal's subtle reactions and pieces everything together from pure observation. Creeped out by Kara's insane detective skills, Louis nervously begs him to keep his mouth shut, mostly because he desperately wants to avoid more headache. Right on cue, Kara whips out a pre-written business contract and slides it over. Louis skims through the paperwork, utterly shocked to find the terms are extremely generous. The deal literally lets him water down the potions before selling them to avoid unwanted suspicion. Packing the bottle away, Kara explains that the trading company has to handle all the sketchy distribution stuff just to keep Louis completely off the radar. In exchange, Louis gets a fat cut of the profits, making this an absolute win-win scenario. Double-checking the fine print, Louis realizes Kara's backing gives him unlimited resources and VIP protection to cook potions freely. He admits the deal is insanely good but firmly demands two specific conditions. First, nerf the potion effects before hitting the market, so nobody asks dangerous questions. Second, the company has to funnel some serious cash straight into his childhood orphanage. Kara doesn't even blink. He scribbles both demands into the contract and hands it back. Pen meets paper, sealing the deal and officially kicking off an epic new partnership. Heading out, Louis mentions he'll brew another batch tomorrow and really needs some sleep. Kara watches him leave, then heads back to his own dorm room. Here's where we leave off. Right after they split up, two sneaky assassins try to ambush Kara from behind. But despite their perfect stealth, Kara reacts instantly to fight. Stick with me here. One intruder is absolutely losing her mind. She sneaks in completely undetected but somehow still completely whiffs her sneak attack. The second one awkwardly apologizes for crashing the party. They just came to drop off some super urgent info before dipping out. Boom, plot twist. Kara is actually a girl in disguise playing dress-up just so she can attend this super strict academy. She hands over the contract to her two sidekicks, and they are completely baffled. Why on earth make such a massive, game-changing deal just for Louis? One sidekick points out that if they actually pull this off, their little trading company could blow up and become top tier across the entire eastern region. I know what you're thinking, and the second apprentice agrees. How did a kid like Louis mastermind such an insane setup? Kara just silently smiles. Louis has absolute monster potential. But the apprentices panic. What if Louis ends up betraying them or decides to back a completely different royal heir? Kara just smirks. That is exactly why she has a very special mission for them. She plans to take total control of the orphanage. Why? Because underneath it all, Louis is a huge softie who honestly needs protecting. Orders given, she shoos them away. And yep, both apprentices literally poof back into pigeons and fly off. Kara stares up at the moon, stressing out because the dreaded academy midterms are right around the corner. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see this play out. She's rushing everything, basically praying Louis drops his disguise in front of the crown prince.